A girl with sea green hair asks in a calm voice if the man is going to kill her, and he chuckles in surprise. If what is destined to happen happens, the lady would very much like it to happen painlessly for her. The blonde does not understand what the mistress is saying because he considers himself a faithful servant of the girl who clearly understood that he was not capable of such a thing. This devoted man, as Selena knows, attacks the girl in the future with magic, forcing her to experience unprecedented pains of body and soul. The most terrible type of character is now standing in front of the beauty. Lowering her voice, she seriously asks to forget about magic, because it will be better that way. The man smiles, saying it was a good joke, seeming to have completely lost any remaining shreds of shame that made him do it. The lady woke up in this world just a few days ago, and this is a book called The Crown of Dawn. This lousy novel was previously read to my sister, who adored fairy tales. To be honest, the heroine did not find what was written on the pages interesting at all, but she had to overcome herself because in this world, the lady lived only for the sake of the girl. The character was adopted as an orphan by a married couple who did not have their own children, but very soon they were blessed with happiness from heaven. Unfortunately, her sister was extremely ill from birth, and her parents blamed Selena for all her misfortunes. They abused her in every possible way. From childhood, the lady was taught that her whole life was dedicated to the poor little one, and therefore what to study and what job to find revolved around her. Everything was decided for someone, but it wasn't a real girl because she clearly wanted something else without understanding what exactly. At times, the brunette hated the beauty since she had given up her life for her, but seeing her on the bed without strength, she swallowed the hatred. The relationship between the two was unstable. They hated each other as much as they should, and so there is no simple explanation for this. Soon the girl left this world, and there was no time left to understand the situation. The need for the heroine disappeared, and her parents sent her away. It was when the lady found herself on the side of the road that her desire to live finally dried up with no intention of returning. Until now, the girl existed at the mercy of others, but now she doesn't know how to be alone. She is incredibly tired. I don't even have the strength to take care of myself, and I don't want to struggle with any difficulties anymore. The lady is tired of everything, even though she now sees her sister's reflection. It's strange that the pale figure that has become completely weak remains in her memory. If her family was what the girl lived for, couldn't she just get better for a moment and become a better person? Now everything will be fine, because the slow end is coming. Tears are dripping and merging with puddles, turning into meaningless water. Unfortunately, it is no longer possible to tell where happiness is and where sadness is, because it will be impossible to separate what has happened. It no longer matters. The moon merges with the month. They slowly enter each other's phases, trying to become one. Eyes slowly open as Selena tries to look around. It feels like she's been reborn into a new world. The room is too light, and the maids are scurrying around, preparing the mistress's room for a new wonderful day. The woman rushes towards Selena, screaming that she misses her. She looks sweet, but the sound almost makes her ears bleed. In just a few minutes, the new heroine's entire family is in the room. Her daughter fell down the stairs and woke up only 4 days later. It seems that the woman does not remember, but in fact, the whole family was more worried than anyone else, constantly thinking about what would happen next. You want to say at least a few words, but you quickly realize that it will be impossible to say anything, and this becomes painful. The doctor reassures everyone that the problem arose from several days spent in bed, and he is even surprised that she woke up so early. If the girl understood correctly, the young man standing nearby is Duke Aaron Howitt, Selena's older brother, and he is not going to leave. The parents are nearby and offer to help. Somehow the Duke calms his wife down so that she doesn't worry about what's happening again. After what happened in her past life, the lady realized that she was reborn as Selena. This could only be a dream, but it seems the truth has caught up with her. Howitt is in bed, but where the real person is will remain a mystery. She also had to move somewhere to make it easier. The lady decides that she doesn't want to think about anything for now, so she lies back on the bed and the chef brings her dinner in bed. There is too much food for a sick person's diet, but there is nothing wrong with that because after all the stomach is empty, so you can eat it all at once. Sitting in bed, the girl tries to cough. Even if she doesn't succeed right away, she realized that after a couple of days, her voice seemed to be recovering. The lady is still wheezing, but understands that it will be easier to survive this way, since eventually she will go into recovery. Selena's parents appeared in the room again, wanting to ask about her well-being. By answering that everything is fine, the heroine receives an enthusiastic reaction because now she worries less about how things are in general. The lady may be too sensitive, but it's quite unpleasant to call complete strangers mom and dad even if you have to. The girl sincerely hopes to soon understand what is in her head and where they are all located. She needs to get as many answers as possible in the near future. A man stands by the window with a tray, and in his head he hears words about forgetting about magic, as this will be the best decision in this life. The parents were devastated when they realized that the baby did not remember anything. The heroine's father is the Duke of Howard, and the Duchess is her mother. She also has a brother, Aaron. To understand the truth, the brunette starts asking about Lucas, or about the Holy Virgin Ariel, or about the maids. The blue-eyed girl shakes her head. A party is mentioned. The lady thinks she knows what it is about, but in that case she only read without details. In that stupid novel, the villain who caused problems for everyone else was actually named Selena, who did it. That faithful servant is, as far as we know, an orphan whom the mistress brought to her estate in the hope of saving him from the streets. Perhaps the guy didn't like everything because he was made their servant and used as a slave in many things that he definitely didn't want to do. The hero was obviously not loyal to Howard, and assessing the situation simply went with the flow, hoping that one day he would be able to become happy. This man will eventually become the first to betray the girl and try to kill her. Turning away, she asks to leave her alone and go away. The lady would like everyone to leave the room, including her parents. She has almost recovered but needs more rest. Therefore, the solution will be best. The room became completely quiet, and this only made it even more pleasant. The bed was soft, and there was no fluff getting into your face. The girl thinks about the bed, but then begins to examine herself. She still finds it difficult to believe that she has become Selena herself. The villainess was a greedy woman. She was envious and wanted everything she did not have, including the duchy that was to be inherited by Aaron. Accordingly, she had no talent to satisfy her desires, so she worked day and night, but it did not bring results. The brother, unlike the heroine, was an outstanding student, and in other respects he was also superior, and it did not take long for the maiden to begin to act. Selena bewitched the boy, making him fall in love with a young heroine named Ariel. She even managed to melt the ice between the two. Ariel's allies soon learned of what had happened and disappointed her, promptly imprisoning her. She failed to get what she wanted, and the girl fell ill and died in captivity at the age of 23. The character's fate was terrible. There's no arguing with that, but still the girl would have liked something new better than this. The lady has no intention of working for anything, so she has decided that she will die when it is destined. There is no desire to arise either. It can be said that the heroine never had any desire to cope with difficulties before. She jumped off the roof of her own free will without hesitation. Yet for some reason, God used the body of another person and connected the soul to the body, which of course at first glance seems meaningless. Falling asleep, the brunette woke up in a ward next to the bed of her sick sister and parents. Too many different thoughts were creeping into her head. When this child died, the character did not shed a single tear. She only thought that her duties were finally over. Now the heroine stands right in front of Selena, who howls in pain trying to turn over in the cell. Perhaps these are the last moments of her life. The girl desperately grabs the bars, screaming about something in complete despair. She really wishes that someone would help her, or that everything would get better. I would have liked that at least at the moment of death, someone would have stood up for the lady and made sure that she was well, but this did not happen, alas. The girl doesn't want to die all alone, sitting in this cold room all alone without any support. She is incredibly angry with herself. The brunette can't help but say that the sight seems terrible. She backs away, trying to avoid being hit, but doesn't know why she was called. When Selena was on the edge, she was so different from her past self. All she wanted was for someone to stand up for her and help her with the way things were. The girl wanted the heroine who also died alone to help her fulfill her wishes, but she missed the moment when she jumped of her own free will. Now you can't choose or do anything because the lady lives in Selena's body, and therefore will die at 23 without this choice that was given to her. Again, a strange feeling. It would be nice to listen to the requests of the deceased person. In the end, there were too many problems. From that day on, the lady decided to try to live this life well, and most importantly, fully first, she tried to leave the chambers. Wherever the lady went, there were maids bustling about, literally giving her no peace. There were too many servants, and it was tiring. It was decided to calm down and think about what to do next. It doesn't matter that Selena died in misfortune because she did it herself. The weather outside is great, which makes her soul feel much warmer and better, and the lady closes her eyes to take a nap. The rustling sound from the side is a little disconcerting, but in the end, there is nothing wrong with it because the lady is a duchess, and therefore nothing terrible will happen. The eyes close, but after some time the lady jumps up from her seat again because there is too much noise. In the distance, an unexpected character appeared, waving a sword in an attempt to conduct proper training. Apparently there was no training ground in the residence, so the lady sighed. She would pretend there was no one there. It would have been better to find some other place, but something happened that the beauty could not have expected at all. Her hair got tangled in the branches. The strands are thin and delicate, so it becomes too painful and they break, but it seems normal because that's how things were in the novel. I was lucky enough to quickly realize that if you don't call for help in such a situation, then most likely nothing good will come of it. The lady takes a deep breath and calls out to the blonde man. He doesn't immediately understand where that person is, but then lowers his head. The man went somewhere instead of helping, but a second later he was behind, thereby scaring the beauty to death. He sits calmly at the table and eats a wonderful cake. He loves something so sweet that it generally seems excellent to him. The magician can't believe that the lady told him to rest and eat cake on the balcony. He can't help but be happy. I would like to know what the girl is doing now, and for now we can only hope that nothing unexpected happens to her and that everything will be fine. The man with the sword bows to greet and asks for forgiveness for not being seen or heard from for so long. Everything is fine, but it would be nice if the young man could help since it was not possible to untangle the hair, even though the lady tried to do something. The hero looks at the girl attentively for about a minute and then bursts into laughter as if he found something funny in what was happening. You want to scream and then scold the hero, but in the end he did nothing, so he has every right to laugh as much as his soul desires. This character has definitely been encountered before on the pages of the book. He is an elite rider of the family that Selena ended up with. The girl tries to remember the name, but nothing comes of it, so she gives up. To make sure nothing goes wrong, the boy names it himself. If help is still needed, the blonde will gladly provide it with a smile on his face that actually seems friendly. While the man untangles the light strands, the beauty yawns. He can't help but think only that Howitt does not deserve to be a duchess. Everyone in the family is very kind, people who wouldn't hurt even a fly, but for some reason this girl is the one who is hunting for the inheritance. As soon as it became known that her brother would inherit the duchy, she began to insist that she should be the one in charge of these lands. In addition, the girl continued to pursue the saint whose marriage had been rumored for several days before. If their celebration had taken place, it would have secured Aaron's right to inherit the throne, which also could not have been good. So far, this has not been a problem, the dukes know for a moment about Selena's bad behavior, but everyone remains silent since Ariel does not want to attract the attention of gossips. Still, such a person is completely unsuitable for the role of the Duchess, which is not surprising. She is suspiciously calm today. The man was told that the girl had lost her memory, but something else had changed in her, and it was suspicious the previous Duchess would have ordered everything to be burned and screamed. If so, then the society meeting will not suffer. It would be better if the girl's memory did not return at all, so that it would be easier for everyone. Quickly completing the work, the young man says that he is finished, and she, looking at him with a calm gaze, thanks him for the help provided. The character named Lucas is of course the one who fell in love with the saint and then tried to do something. In the winter when Selena turns 19, it all began. That day, Ariel, who was waiting for Aaron, fell into a trap and faced terrible cold. The guy saved her, and then despite everything that happened, she says goodbye to her future husband, who stood up for her sister, and falls in love with another. Spring a few months after the incident only got better, for now he perceives his future wife as nothing more than a classmate at the academy. Perhaps now the relationship with Selena will improve, and in that case it remains to be happy, because there is a small chance. If the lady liked the lord, they could become friends. The man could swear that he thought he saw the lady asking for a kiss. If Lucas, an honorable and distinguished horseman of the ducal family, mourned at the funeral of the Duchess, then a miserable death could be avoided. You can't ignore him, because if you get close, the young man will come to the funeral. In friends, only quality is always important, not quantity. The blonde frowns, saying that he's sorry, but they can't be friends. In fact, it seems like he doesn't care either way. In this case, nothing can be done. But this does not mean that the lady will stop wanting. She is going to leave while saying goodbye. If you think about it, even in her past life, the lady never had friends, and even from a younger age, her duty was to look after her sister after school. Even when Selena became part of society, nothing changed at all. Her parents would hardly have allowed her to be friends with anyone. Everyone thought that other people were not needed when they should be looking after their youngest. They should constantly feel sorry for her. It seems that one day it got to the point that in order to be close to her parents and call them that, the lady had to agree to everything. Even after all that was said, and after what the lady had done, she was still thrown out as soon as the girl was gone. It's hard to believe that today the blue-eyed girl tried to make a friend for the first time and was rejected right to her face, which became the point of no return. As a child, the little girl often played video games in secret from her parents. Of course, this was something important, since nothing else was presented. There was one popular game among classmates which they constantly discussed. The interest it generated was higher than everything else. Once in the game, the girl immediately encountered one of the strongest monsters, which diminished her happiness from the beginning. Now, how it has a strangely similar feeling that is not going away, as if she has completely cooled off to everything. The lady barely reached her destination. If she rings the bell, then the whole house will shake, which will already be considered something entertaining. The heroine, unfortunately, will not be able to fulfill the beauty's wish. She does not think that she will be able to make all the people mourn at her funeral. Moreover, there is no certainty that the girl will come to terms with the fact that she will lie with her eyes closed while other people mourn the loss. It's a shame to realize that even if the girl lives a long life, it won't change anything. In the past, no matter how much Howitt tried, everything remained the same. The heroine of this novel would not want to die unhappy anyway, so Selena is simply obliged to do everything in her power. Illness should not be as terrible as in the past, and death should be different. If everything is done correctly, then it will be so. Here the beauty is already standing near the edge. After all, Selena is a duchess and a member of a family in which everyone cares for and loves each other. As long as people are around, at least they can grieve the loss. It will be okay if you do what you want, and jumping will be easy. Unfortunately, it is like a vicious circle from which there is no way out. The girl again chooses death in order not to go through difficulties. Lucas walks up the path, still unable to recover from the encounter, and continuing to wonder what was wrong with the Duchess. The accident left the girl with memory loss, which may explain the changes in her behavior and the fact that she did not leave her room for several days. That's where the information ends, but what she was doing there alone. What's much more interesting is why she suddenly received a friend request after that. Everyone has long known Howitt's character, and to suggest something like this is completely out of her style. She seemed too careless in her answer. The feeling of uncertainty remains the same as before. The girl seems to have gone towards the bell tower, where the man's gaze is directed. There is nothing that can be done about this, but the bad feeling does not leave the chest. The blonde is left to stop in the middle and think about what and how. If the Duchess had been a little disappointed by the refusal, she could not have felt so strange. Something had gone wrong. Only now does it dawn on him that the lady looked too lifeless at the time of the conversation. Lucas rushes towards the tower, which he can still see. Using his physical strength, the hero runs out onto the stairs in literally 2 minutes and rushes forward towards the blue-eyed girl standing on the edge. The hand grabs the waist, and the second clings to the wrist in response to everything that happened. The lady only emotionlessly says that it hurts. The Lord drops the beauty to the ground so that she can come to her senses and try to somehow come to terms with this. She turns to him again. The next question, which sounds even stranger and has to do with surveillance or something else, for some reason there is again a carelessness in the voice. The blonde tries to remain as calm as possible as he asks if the girl tried to die because she was rejected from being friends. The person who rejected Selena could have been Aiden or a stranger because it was all the same. Lucas is a good guy in every way, and the lady, of course, understands this more than perfectly well, so everything remains without questions. The young man probably now feels responsible for having prevented the attempt. Perhaps he should have waited a little before going there. The lady doesn't really care, so without embarrassment, she directly says that the guy is not to blame. He asks again but gets the same answer. A completely logical question follows in response. The girl unfortunately cannot say why she tried to jump. You could always ask, but they were clearly not close enough to ask each other such questions the first time. The Lord is not guilty and has not done anything, so the best solution would be to mind his own business. What happened is just a misunderstanding. The blonde should just leave, but unfortunately he doesn't do this, and just sits in place looking at the back of his interlocutor. Obviously, there was some worry that the lady would jump off as soon as the man left, and a second time in one day would be too much, so she shook her head. It is not recommended to do something like this even once because in reality, death is not such an easy thing. Everything is too complicated. Always, even if you want to die, it doesn't mean that you won't hesitate when the time comes. Someday, it will change. My back and buttocks hurt perhaps too much from the bad landing, and now I'm scared to think about how to go down the stairs. The ideal option would be for Lucas to leave right now. Most likely, he wouldn't be stupid enough to follow the Duchess straight away. The young man picked up Howitt in his arms. A second later, he was going to carry her because if he didn't do this, he could end up stuck in one place for a very, very long time. Initially, the blue-eyed one did not intend to descend in such a complicated way. It was already clear to everyone what exactly was being discussed. In order to avoid unnecessary contact, the lady closes her eyes and remains silent. Lucas hopes to one day find out what his friend was thinking. The Duke screams in horror after hearing this. Selena said that she had long wanted to go for a walk, so she was released without questions, almost immediately. The father almost loses consciousness. Not everyone will be able to easily survive something like this and behave calmly, trying to clarify the situation. The man has only one daughter, so he does not understand why she behaves this way. He would like to protect the little girl from all the hardships of this world. Outside the window, rain slowly begins to gather, and then it pours down in buckets. The old man sitting by the bed asks Howitt what is bothering her. The lady directly says that the pain is present only in the buttocks. If this is so, then I would still like to know why she tried to jump off the roof. Remaining completely unperturbed, the girl sighs, saying that everything around her is too much of a hassle to deal with this. There are no serious injuries, but the lady looks terribly worried. Perhaps she should change her surroundings a bit to be completely happy. The stress and fatigue from the memory loss took its toll, and combined with the emotional distress and other things, it didn't end well. There is no effective way in this case. All you can do is observe how the situation is. Attempts to restore memory will only worsen the situation several times if possible. Then the girl cannot be left alone so that she does not do anything to herself. The Duke does not understand what to do. He is in despair. He asks Lucas to look after Selena so that everything is in order. Aaron also asks for help. He would even like to do something good, but he does not understand what exactly the lady is suffering precisely because of him. The Lord was the son of a baron, and only thanks to the Duke was he able to enter the academy. Moreover, he was given his own room. The couple treated the boy, who, by the way, was the same age as Aaron, as if he were their own son. Only because they were close does the young man understand how dear his sister is to his friend, even though she probably hates him. Aiden was also assigned to the beauty, but she almost immediately ordered him to leave. He asks for forgiveness, but he is not allowed to do so. Yesterday, Selena still made a mistake, which resulted in only more problems that will be difficult to get rid of. It seems like the blonde guy was put there to be close just because they were the closest before, but in reality, this guy hates the lady to death. The worst-case scenarios were already running through my head, which ultimately did their job. A man could kill a lady while she was sleeping, but she didn't want that. It seems as if the boy doesn't understand the meaning of the word leave, and if that's the case, he should at least stop standing there like a pillar and not interfere. The hero is asked to sit down, and he thinks that this is some kind of test. Maybe he is not tired, but the girl is tired when they stare at her. Still obeying the order, Aiden walks to the nearest chair and sits down. Howitt looks at the ceiling again because she is incredibly bored. There are no interesting books in this world. You can forget about the internet too, and to listen to music you have to call a whole orchestra. By rights only, Selena herself should be blamed for everything that happened. Because she made a mistake, that friend only made everything worse, but perhaps there will be another chance later. Because of the difficulties in order to die, you also have to make some kind of specific plan. You need something that will appeal even to such a person. In order to make everything a reality, we will have to wait. But for now, it is time for sleep, which draws us in almost immediately. Aiden is still sitting in the room, not going to leave even after a few hours. The main male character visits the room almost every day, which is also quite annoying. The girl shouts something about a sign on the door, and the man immediately understands what's what. Getting up from his chair, the guy goes to the exit. To get some fresh air, the beauty, as usual, got ready for a daytime walk. Of course, her 2 faithful servants followed her like little dogs. The lady thought that if she kept quiet, perhaps the situation would improve, but no such luck. 5 days passed and she was still not lucky enough to see any changes. In addition to the problems for 5 days, the parents came into the room and cried, saying that they were happy that their daughter had returned. If Selena had been a little more serious in the beginning, she wouldn't have had to lead the strange lifestyle that has now been revealed to her. Aaron can be seen in the distance down the alley looking as miserable as usual, and the girl almost feels bad about what's going on here. The guy asks how the lady is feeling. He was definitely worried about his sister, but since he knows her character, he tried not to say or ask anything. The beauty cannot believe that Howitt deliberately did not even show his head because he was afraid of something. Startling everyone gathered, the blue-eyed one asks if they can take a walk. Seeing the expression on her face, she shrugs, saying that it doesn't matter. Then, the hero is definitely not trying to refuse, so he nods actively. They will also return together, so there is no point in worrying about them. Aaron promises that he will look after Howitt and do everything in his power to prevent unnecessary problems from arising. The couple sets off down the alley. The girl asks the man how he feels because, in fact, the young man looks tired. He even gets a little scared, so he jumps back. Besides everything else, the hero of course wonders if his sister has regained her memory, but she just looks straight at him without words. Howitt slowly remembers, even if she never actually forgot anything, which is definitely not something the rest of the family should know. One can't help but wonder what she managed to remember, and it seems there was something about the lady hating her older brother from the very beginning. The boy thinks that he will be hated again, and the lady knows well about victims who do not return a second time. For Aaron, everything is just for love, but for the girl, things are different, and she herself does not know what is wrong. The only thing she knows is that emptiness and pain in her soul. The man hadn't felt the sense of abandonment yet, perhaps because Selena was different and acted that way. Gathering all her thoughts together, the girl asks for forgiveness. For the hatred she showed earlier, she sees a surprised expression on his face. What happened was too sudden. No matter how you look at it, the lady looks straight ahead, realizing that it could have been a full-fledged shock. What happened can't be called some kind of stupid joke. Now it seems to Howitt that something has changed because his sister didn't behave like that before. Blue-eyed asks how long the two will be watching them. Perhaps if the hero says right now that everything is not so bad, it will improve dramatically. It is the acquaintance who should say something because he has much better relations with everyone else until the heroine has fully recovered. Although it is difficult, she must endure a little. It felt like the brunette was standing in front of her adoptive parents. She, as a little girl on whom great hopes were placed, was different. A brother always wants to be loved, and so now he always tries to be good. He can't do anything if he thinks about something else. It's not clear what to do if something happens again. The problem is that the hero does not show his true feelings to other people. He shows weaknesses only to those he is sure of. Erin's true nature is just like the girl's when she was little and lived in another world. She can't notice any difference. If the lady could meet her true self, she would tell her to drop all expectations, because in the end, these people don't appreciate what they give. The focus is on the fact that in the past, before her death, Selena hoped that there would be at least one normal person next to her who would take care of her. In this regard, all people are different, and to some extent this may be something else. The girl asks her brother to do her one favor. Howitt told his parents that the Duchess wanted to meet St. Ariel. She insisted, so she would not back down. The father does not understand whether it will be right to allow the beauty to meet the girl, because recent events have made everyone worry even more. Everything will be fine. The girl apologized and said that she regretted everything she had done, and her memory, although not completely, at least partially returned to her. Gritting their teeth, the married couple agrees because in the end there was no other way out. The guy must be present next to his sister. A table was set up in the garden at which two people were sitting. Ariel Frackrit was told that the Duchess herself had expressed a desire to meet with her, so she had no right to refuse. In real life, the beauty really does look like the main character. They look great with Aaron, and perhaps it is fate that gave them this. Instead of making the older brother a hero, the author makes Franklin fall in love with his close friend, which is already unfair. It only takes one glance to realize that the pair are completely uncomfortable looking at each other without making eye contact. The lady does not want to drag it out, so getting up from her seat, she bows her head and apologizes with all her heart for her actions. When introducing yourself or apologizing, you need to do it properly so that it is clear that you are dealing with a grown lady. Ariel rushes forward, assuring that this is all not worth attention because given the girl's condition, she deserves to rest and not apologize. The lady sincerely promises that she will never do anything terrible again. Anything bad, she would like to bless Ariel. Usually people don't change so quickly, but when faced with death, the girl began to think about human life in a new way as her opinion changed. Even if the maiden does not forgive immediately, there is no other way, because it is all Howit's fault. She would only like to say that she wishes happiness. The blonde holds the man's hand while she listens to everything that is said, and then, smiling radiantly, thanks him for what he told her. Another day begins for the servants today. They must also try hard to ensure that nothing bad happens, and this is the right choice. The butler noticed Aiden, the guy, had been getting a lot of abuse from the lady lately, and this was because, having lost her memory, the lady suddenly became like a different person. Everyone in the room was incredibly grateful to the man because he had protected them every time from the mistress and her attacks, which never stopped. It is still unclear whether it is possible to change so much after losing your memory. Everyone is still confused. Either there was a change of personality, or in that case there could have been something else, and it has been shrouded in mystery from the very beginning. The beauty lies emotionlessly on the bed looking at the ceiling. Very soon, as we know, her brother will get engaged. In the novel, the couple didn't even have time to get married, as they eventually broke up for the well-known reason. If Selena apologized, it seems that everything could become a little better than it was before. As soon as the lady called the princess and apologized, both immediately agreed on the day of the engagement, since now their relationship was no longer hindered. Death can be delayed a little, because if you die before the significant day for your brother arrives, the situation will be no different from the original. There was a knock at the door, and sure enough, Lucas was there, noticing that the lady had decided to spend the entire day in bed again, without asking any questions. About 2 weeks have passed since the man began visiting the beauty's bedroom, but she does not understand at all that he still needs it on a permanent basis. Although the blonde says that he is worried, he is very picky, and it seems that his patience will completely run out, after which a scream will follow. Sitting still all the time is bad for your health. If you open the curtains, you can sunbathe right in the room, but that is not what you need. The girl was rushing around here not just because she was too busy doing something else, but with each passing moment, it seemed that this was true. The man screams loudly when he hears that the lady has even become troublesome to live. She jumps up in fear on the bed. Lucas apologizes in time for his rudeness and asks to understand his feelings too, because in reality, he can only worry about her health. This man certainly deserves an Oscar because he is known to be an experienced deceiver, especially in public. He pretends to be a good-natured gentleman. In reality, the hero is very calculating. Not counting Selena, the House of the Dukes, and the main character in this regard are exceptions to the rules that are taken. It must be that if the girl doesn't get up, then this performance will never end, thus bringing it to the end. She has already seen enough. It is still better to go out since once will not do anything. The lady tries to get up, but not everything is so simple. Except for trips to the toilet, she constantly spent time in bed. The heroine already opens her mouth to ask for help, but she falls silent in time. She is perfectly aware that if she asks for something now, the reproaches will only increase many times over. Blue Eyes calls out to Aiden, asking him to help her hold her hand as she tries to get up and walk to the door. The hero asks the girl with concern if she is okay and gets a strange look. She knows that he is also some kind of actor because he is not really worried. Despite everything, the servant at least has a conscience, and besides, he is cute enough that the unnecessary problems we are talking about do not arise. If we compare the options provided, Lucas is much more insidious and nasty, but then it is not clear why Selena fell in love with him. Mutual understanding is a part of human life, which is also important. If you do not talk about your problems, nothing will work. The lady wants to go to a place where she has everything, but she wants to somehow live longer even if she is treated like a servant or a slave. Looking at her friend who doesn't move away, the blue-eyed girl sharply asks what his name is because she hasn't heard his name. She hears something unintelligible. Aiden finally realized the reality of the situation, such as he might be a good option, which seemed great. Thinking out loud was unnecessary. Next to the girl is the man who betrayed her and the one who imprisoned her, but she calmly walks with them without even thinking about it. It can be said that both are incredibly handsome. Lucas has silver hair and purple eyes and also perfect facial features that are different. In the novel, the young man was described exactly the same, but now the lady had the opportunity to see all this in real life. The young man probably often uses his cute face. Aiden is a green-eyed blonde whose hair is so pure gold it's almost annoying, and if you think about it, he's a lot lighter than the guy I imagined when I first read the novel. Lately, the servant has been too gloomy, and it is not clear what is going on in his head. He cannot believe that the mistress does not even remember his name. Distracted from her friend's bad mood, the lady hears Lucas insisting that the lady have more physical activity. The young gentleman is getting engaged very soon, and if he shows up to such an event pale, the guests will be worried from the very beginning. Virgo promises to go for walks more often, then they move on to eating, and for completeness you need to sit up straight when you eat, or at least do it at the table. Everything can be handed over to relatives, but for now the work is finished because the girl goes back to her room. Lucas could do with finally ending his fake performance, which is actually making the lady very uncomfortable. Having lost her memory, the Duchess changed so much that she stopped showing emotions, and her piercing gaze became even sharper than before. Now the knight was so curious that even without Aaron or the Howites' request, he would still follow. The duo are at a table in the garden and they are drinking tea. The young man is thinking about something, so when the lady calls him, he is quite scared. The hero does not eat or drink anything, as if he is very nervous, and in fact, you can see that he is on the edge. Blue Eyes has decided that from now on she will only eat and walk with Aiden, and so the choice becomes obvious and she becomes disgusted with other people. The blonde doesn't believe it, because unlike Lord Lucas, he doesn't have the power to ensure peace. If something happens, there will be no point in him. The hero can use magic, but that was unnecessary. Now a problem has arisen because this person is one of the few who shows his emotions openly. The handsome man laughs nervously, saying that he doesn't quite understand what they're talking about. He intends to continue hiding it, but he must understand that he gave himself away a long time ago. The girl moves a plate with strawberry dessert closer. The guy loves dessert, so he should eat it, but instead he wants to ask something. The blue-eyed girl didn't even remember the boy's name, but then she changed. She knows that the butler, cook, and maid whom the good guy takes care of bring cakes when something happens. The story said that the unfortunate servant was afraid that he would be thrown out into the cold again, and he clung with all his might to the Duke's house, where he also did not like it. Every time young Selena would bully Aiden, the rest of the servants would try to brighten his days and bring him treats. The only taste of cake that the lady knew in her past life was chocolate once she came to the hospital to visit her sister with cake, and she gave her a piece to try. The little girl never even thought that sweets could be tasty, but she simply accepted them because they were offered to her. The taste made her tongue go numb, so the beauty could never understand whether she really liked it. Unfortunately, the girl did not understand anything before, and now blames herself for how she behaved before in relation to what was happening. The man distracts her from her thoughts, calling for Mrs. Selena again. It is noticeable that she has turned pale, trying to collect her thoughts. The lady says outright that she hates this kind of sweets, so the friend agrees to take it away so that it doesn't get in the way. The beauty carefully spears a piece of strawberry on a fork, which melts in her mouth. The hero cannot understand what caused the sudden change in mood. From the moment the lady woke up, she looked at everything around her as if there was no meaning to it, like a grieving child. Blue Eyes jokes that this cake is the most delicious of all she has ever tasted, and in some ways this does not have any bad consequences. Noticing the changes on the servant's face, the girl does not miss the opportunity to ask again whether the dessert was literally the most delicious for him. Now, when the Duchess is brought something that she does not want, they can quite easily dine together and she can give them to her friend because he will accept them. The long-awaited morning has arrived. The maid opens the curtains to let in the sunlight, and when the lady asks about the time, it turns out that it is only 6 a.m. Today is Aaron's engagement ceremony, and in that case, it is necessary to get ready early. It should not take much time, but at least the woman herself hopes for it. The girl lowers herself into a bath with cool but at the same time warm water, which pleasantly envelops the body, and they are going to comb her hair. Because of the ceremony that is supposed to take place very soon, everyone is fussing even more than they should, and this cannot help but be completely irritating. No one has a minute to spare to hold a wedding in the imperial palace. They decided to do it in the halls of the ducal estate, so it is no wonder that they are all so busy. The jewelry that Aiden ordered has already arrived, so he knocks to enter. Noticing the beauty sitting in front of the mirror, the young man freezes with his cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Just a second ago, the young man was standing in the room, but he was already running down the corridor. As a servant, he saw the girl changing clothes for the first time, but then he didn't understand what it was. Today, the lady realized for the first time how carefree her days were before she was reborn as the daughter of the aristocrats in this world. They look at her like predators. There is obviously no choice anyway. One of the maids asks to make a decision because there are only 5 dresses left after 72 days of selection, which was carried out personally. Of course, it wasn't just about the outfits, because then there was the agony of choosing shoes, gloves, and a fan, all of which looked beautiful. The girl is already quite tired, but the maid suggests that she admire herself for a while before moving on to selecting a precious stone. The lady looks at the wonderful reflection, although she understands that she will never get used to this alien face. She no longer remembers what her real face was like. Even after several minutes, she couldn't remember anything. She convinces herself that she should stop because it's customary to forget the faces of the dead. The real Selena's expression was definitely not as calm and indifferent as it is now, so the blue-eyed one practices making the maids shrink. When there are so many people around, it is better not to grimace, so as not to get into unnecessary trouble later. If everything is fine with the lady, then it is better to proceed to the last stage, so as not to be late. To quickly get everything unnecessary over with, the beauty calmly exhales, saying that in her opinion the left one would suit her, but then Lucas, appearing out of nowhere, says about the right one. Knocking was obviously too difficult, so the hero behaved this way. The servants forgot to close the door since everyone was busy and running from side to side. The lady thought that if she said what she felt directly, then things would become a little easier for them, but instead she gave them a reason to remove the mask that had been on until then. The girl felt that she did not need the knight to accompany her to the wedding, but he said that he really wanted to do so, and in the end, the decision was his. At least he stopped pretending to be a gentleman, which he wasn't from the very beginning. Every time the girl goes out, he shows up and behaves provocatively, becoming too intrusive. Finally, the preparations were completely finished. The heroine cannot say that she is not tired, because in fact her whole body aches after being driven from side to side. The image looks wonderful, so all that remains is to thank her for her efforts. If it were the real Selena, she would not have said such a thing, so the maids bow their heads in fear, probably not understanding. Lucas, noticing the gaze on himself, begins to smile. He does it too naturally and casually, but if the Duchess does the same, it will look awkward. Blue-eyed asks why the hero came here today. She does not plan to go for a walk since she will be busy preparing for the engagement until the evening, and then she will rest. The knight came early without warning, but now asks to be allowed to accompany the lady to her destination. A rude answer is quickly heard that such a thing can be asked of Aiden. A man, unfortunately, is only a servant. Even if he were a close associate of the Duchess, it is still unacceptable if the nobility is accompanied, because it will not make a good impression. You'd have to be brainless not to realize that we're talking about social classes, that the lady could get ready for an engagement party without lifting a finger, while Aiden would always be left behind. The lady knows very well that sometimes the boy simply stands outside the window, carefully observing everything and trying to understand what is happening, and sometimes he leaves everything altogether. This time he is also not allowed to go where the aristocracy gathers. The woman is not going to tolerate this, so she asks why the attitude is such, as if this is some kind of completely unnecessary garbage. If we are talking about the higher ones, then they are all the same too. Although the man is the main character, he laughs like some kind of villain. She changed her mind about the lessons on how to smile effectively because there is not a drop of truthfulness or benevolence in her. If the guy has finished his business, he can safely leave so as not to get underfoot. The blue-eyed girl needs to do something before the ceremony, so she asks to call the servant before he leaves. There is absolutely no need to rush anywhere because the man was here from the very beginning and simply came when he was called on time. The lady truly did not manage to find out what real garbage was. All this was just words from a children's fairy tale about kindness and joy, of which there is in fact very little in this world. Selena, when she was still very young, found a blonde man in an alley. She noticed that her friend had a cute face, so she couldn't help but offer to go to the estate together. The lady who appeared before the hero looked like a ray of light that year. The winter was harsh. So many children simply froze to death. Squeezing the outstretched hand, the boy thought that he could still live. Perhaps the child was going to be taken to a wonderful world like a children's fairy tale, in which only good exists. The illusion was destroyed in an instant. The little girl turned out to have a terrible character, which had to be tolerated almost on a permanent basis. She was unhappy with any unnecessary movement of the man. At the first meeting, the little girl extended her hand with a smile, saying that everything would be fine, and asked that now the young man obey only her. It seemed that everything would be fine. Words from the past gave hope and warmed the heart. Growing up, young Mr. Aaron always showed himself from the best side as the heir of the family, and the girl, captivated by a feeling of envy, could no longer hide her cruel character. The Duchess studied from the same books, but for some reason her brother knew more than she did, which of course did not bring any joy. She watched the Duke's every step to understand what was wrong. The boy, unfortunately, could not even say a word about the master's training, but they constantly tried to punish him for this. The girl poked him with the fact that she had picked up a homeless person and now he was obliged to repay. In order not to be useless, Aiden was ordered to find out what books Howitt's eldest son was studying so that the lady could show herself much better at the next dinner. The absurd attraction reached the point where the lady ordered the books to be stolen, and when the young man refused, she began to scream about how much she regretted having picked him up earlier. Enduring insults and beatings day after day was humiliating and unbearable. The boy just wanted everything to get better and just wanted to be happy. If it weren't for Howitt, he would probably be lying by the side of the road frozen to death, so the hero tried to cheer himself up, saying that it was lucky that such a fate had not touched him. At least he had a bed in the estate. Everything was the same, but one day at about 17 years old, the young man thought about what was the difference between what was on the street and what is happening now. The realization came the day it became known that Aaron would graduate from the academy as the best student of all. The lady, in a fit of anger, smashed the room to pieces and screamed. In despair, the blue-eyed girl threw the box, which hit the young man right in the face. He started bleeding, which scared the girl even more. The man, without showing any emotion, assured her that everything was fine. That day, something inside broke because it was the last straw. The hero was filled with an insatiable crimson desire to kill the one who caused so much pain and trouble. Unnoticed, even tears flowed along with the blood, which did not stop. When the boy suffered from beatings on the roads, he did not cry, but here it was impossible to calm the feeling of betrayal. It was too late to feel bad. A beautiful purple vortex appeared around which seemed to resemble magic. The cry of the soul turned into something strong, and then hope was found. The Duchess can be killed with force. It would be interesting to see her expression when she finds out that the useless servant has more skills than anyone else. I would like to understand what the person himself will feel when his revenge is finally accomplished after many years of terrible treatment that he did not deserve. For now, the hero decided to keep his ability to use magic a secret. At first he thought about visiting the wizard's tower and asking if they would accept him, but it is not even clear if there is any sense. If he acted recklessly, the man would be denied the tower and perhaps even thrown out of the ducal house forever, so he decided to act pragmatically. The best solution was to endure it further and collect my thoughts for now. The lady's attitude became a little softer after that incident with the box. Although Selena had lost her memory, hearing words about trash and aristocracy was extremely funny. She was definitely up to something, but what exactly was unclear. The girl falls to her knees in front of Aaron because before he said that he was sorry for everything, but now, every time he apologizes, the girl is going to insist on her guilt. If the hero apologizes to his sister, those around him will think that she has no respect for her brother, so he promises that he will try. In any case, the lady congratulates you with all her heart on the engagement which has finally happened. She came early to congratulate you before anything has started yet. Obviously, the very reason the heroine came was to congratulate everyone on the beginning of the ceremony. Then the beauty went to Ariel's room. The Duke and Duchess always look at the heroine with eyes that love Selena, but not the one who is now in her body. Only next to them does a feeling of guilt awaken in her, so it becomes difficult to call her mom and dad. It will be a huge shock for the couple when they have to find out that she is not their daughter, but a person who came back to life in a body to correct the mistakes of the past. There is absolutely no desire to see each other, but the lady understands that she needs to be stubborn and do what she has planned. She knocks on the door saying that she has come. It seems like there is no one inside, so the girl is about to leave. The door opens a second later, and immediately there is a hug from her mother who is smiling. Today is a beautiful day, so the Duchess cannot help but be glad that her daughter has visited them. They already had dinner together yesterday, but it seems that during this time, the family has managed to miss each other. The daughter came to offer her congratulations before the ceremony, so of course they will be accepted. The father also comes out saying that this is one of the best days of his life. Tender eyes and voices that fill the heart with love, gestures of friendliness, and warm words of greeting. This is exactly what the lady could not get in the end. The caress sends shivers down the body, and the nose starts to sting, because this has never happened before. You need to calm down because the couple wants to see their daughter and not an imposter. There is no point in giving yourself away, so the heroine collects her thoughts to say something she calls her parents by other names, which brings them a ton of joy. Blue-eyed hugs her mother, thanking her for being so warmly received and for taking care of her until the end, despite all the actions from the past. Before Aaron's engagement, Selena also seemed to have matured. This calming and fulfilling unconditional love is probably what children get from their parents. The girl would now like to know what the Duchess was unhappy with. She never listened and was constantly raging, completely unaware that they only wanted the best for her. Suddenly, the corridor became strange when the heroine first saw it. There was nothing remarkable in it, but now it seems that something has finally changed. Aiden wants to ask something, but the lady beats him to it because she asks if she found the guy in that dark alley lying after everything that happened. The girl also remembers throwing the box, causing blood to flow. The young man's mood changes, but he tries to stay calm. Apparently, this is really the very novel that the beauty had read about, and now there is no way out, because she will have to go to the very end. The baby is in the body of the heroine from the novel, and each time she becomes more and more convinced that she does not belong here because nothing will get better anyway. If a lady plans to die in a few days, she will not need this warmth of soul, and she should not hold on to vain hopes in a world to which she will not get used anyway. There is nothing you can do about it, and trying to correct yourself and your past actions will not work. The lady was going to go down, but instead she falls down the stairs. If you think about it, even from someone else, you won't be able to get either an apology or gratitude, which is logical, because, for example, the servant hasn't done anything like that yet, remaining faithful. If there was anyone Selena felt grateful towards, it was Aiden, but for some reason now he looks angry, or rather sad. The blonde wouldn't have time to come down to save the lady, so he used magic that raised the body into the air in soft waves. The heroine looks at the stairs, not looking at the face of the servant standing next to her. If she had fallen, she would most likely have broken her neck at the very least. The maiden asks the man why he saved her. The maids gather around and ask if the Duchess is okay. Everything is fine, except for the fact that her head is spinning, but overall nothing terrible happened. Howard is quickly taken back to the room to have her look fixed as her dress is wrinkled. Aiden is about to leave, but is quickly stopped. When the young man saved the lady, he used magic, and overall he cannot be blamed because he had no choice. Leaving the room, the hero remembers the words said by the girl. The girl used to live peacefully, indulging her own whims, not worrying about other people's opinions as such, but for some reason now her eyes have become empty. The man himself began to wonder why he had saved the one who had behaved like that. With him remaining a nasty person, he could have simply killed her. Only now did the character realize that he would not have been able to bear to see his mistress die. At the moment when she fell, everything seemed to freeze. Now the boy realized that from the moment they met, and after everything that happened, he never really wanted to kill the lady. He only had one desire. The blonde ran into the room to say something, but at the most inopportune moment, Lucas arrived, announcing the beginning of the ceremony to which she was being escorted. The Duchess's hair is a little disheveled, which makes it clear that she needs maids to tidy up her appearance. There is no more time to wait. The boy is about to leave to do what he was originally going to do. He is stopped. Because earlier he wanted to say something, running into the room, shaking his head. He says that it is nothing important. The ceremony is just beginning, but there is time to look around because everything is decorated too beautifully. The Lord invites the Duchess to the table with Howitt Sr. Now the heroes of the occasion, who everyone is already expecting, will come out to them all. The couple should be greeted with applause. Aaron walks out with Ariel and smiles at everyone gathered. He notices Selena and almost immediately lights up with joy, starting to wave his hand even more. There are too many thoughts because there is no point in smiling, because the beauty is not a real person in this family, so as not to upset her brother, she greets him back with force. There is literally chaos all around, and the lady seems to get tired of watching quite quickly and turns away. After having to become Selena, the lady was pretty tired because it was the first time she had stood for so long. Her exit was coming soon, so she should try her best. Aristocrats rush at the girl wanting to talk. Lucas runs away when he is needed, although the escort should behave completely differently. One of the beauties wanders around curtsying, happy that they managed to meet. She heard that her friend was not greeted. The girl can only thank her for her concern, but in fact, everything is not as bad as it seems. Although the friend heard that the lady had lost her memory, now it's like she's a different person who has changed. Before, the lady would have been angry that her friend knew everything, but only came to visit now. The lady probably doesn't even remember the name that the beauty had. She is Vivian Jonas from the family of Count Jonas. Their house is mainly engaged in the sale of clothes. It seems like the girl is trying to get closer to the blue-eyed one before her memory returns. Even if she succeeds, the only thing she will get is an invitation to a funeral in the near future. Next up is a red-haired beauty who actively greets by waving her hand. In the novel, she was a villain, and Selena's right hand named Mia, and was also known. It seems that the lady played a role in the formation of the main character's bad character, which means that she is indirectly to blame for how the girl's life ended after all her torment. The lady's memory has not yet returned, so she quickly apologizes for behaving like this. The condition will improve, and when the girl recovers, she will remember who her only friends were. It would be nice for Mia to chat with her friend, so Jonas is therefore obliged to give up her seat, which she had already taken when she started talking. As soon as there was no one left around, the red-haired girl asks if the girl really doesn't remember anything, or if she's already planning something interesting. It seems like they were close before, but now Selena doesn't remember anything, so she's a little awkward. They were like sisters or better, and now, according to the words, it seems as if they have become nothing to each other. The girl tries to make everything better, but the whispers that are spreading around do not help. The Duchess just goes and says something like that, although she doesn't even suspect what the girl had to go through to gain her trust. She tried to mock the weak and gave expensive gifts. The heroine was told many words of flattery that seemed ideal, and she herself had an evil nature. If you create a suitable situation, she will definitely remember everything. Her mouth is dry, so the beauty asks the servant to bring a glass of lemonade. It will not be a problem for Rachapelle to attack Aiden again, without any reason. The glass that the young man handed over ends up in her hands, but before accepting it, Mia winked at her friend a second later. The contents end up on her dress, and a squeal is heard in the hall. Rachapelle yells menacingly at the servant because he probably has no idea how much her very expensive dress costs. He apologizes almost immediately. The hero knew that the evening he was persuaded to come to would end like this. Mia pokes him with her fan, calling the man a rootless nonentity and humiliating him in every possible way. It was only thanks to Selena that he had survived this long, so the boy should keep quiet and try to do a better job so as not to end up back on the streets where he was picked up. Now the blonde is obliged to do what he must. The lady has not forgotten anything just because they have not seen each other for a long time, so she definitely does not intend to give up so easily. Mia orders him to kneel down to beg for forgiveness better. However, as soon as the guy goes down, the mistress grabs him by the elbow, forcing him to rise back up. Blue-eyed steps forward, trying to say exactly what she thinks. Listening to the foul language was so disgusting that she thought her ears would rot that very second. Today is the important engagement ceremony of the Duke, the eldest son of the Howitt family, and Saint Ariel, so Ratchapelle has no right to make a fuss without reason. The girl claims that she is a victim because lemonade was poured on her clothes, but the lady does not agree to this because she knows who the culprit was. The lady most likely did not notice at first that it was about to spill. It was time to listen to the comments from the other ladies. The girl was now a little embarrassed by her first impression of those who had gathered together. The aristocrats, one after another, agree with what the Duchess said because it seems to everyone that Aiden did nothing wrong and was only trying to fulfill the order perfectly. They rush to Selena to explain how everything works here. Perhaps she doesn't remember, but earlier, this servant was her toy with whom she was allowed to do whatever her heart desired. As Ratchapelle said, she doesn't remember anything, but that doesn't mean there's a need to act so horribly right in front of everyone else gathered in the room. Perhaps when she manages to regain her memory, the lady will change her mind, but for now, nothing will get better. They were friends, so she must treat each other with respect and love. They used to be together, but in this case, it won't happen again. Mia should stop trying to establish contact again, because it is immediately clear that nothing will really come of it. Lucas, who had been standing to the side all this time, finally steps forward to tell the lady that she doesn't look well, and that they should go back to rest. Doing so was probably the best idea, because the girl always wanted to attend her dear brother's wedding, but now she doesn't think she can hold out any longer than usual. The Lord sympathetically shakes his head, realizing that the beauty really needs rest, and then, taking her by the arm, is about to lead her to his chambers, where she can rest peacefully. Already on the way out, the Duchess turns around and extends her hand to Aiden. He still hasn't come to his senses until the offer comes to go with them, so as not to remain in this place. Be that as it may, now this moment reminds me of what was before in that alley. This is his mistress, and only she can treat him as she wants and can offer something that cannot be refused. The girl asks him not to kneel anymore when he has to carry drinks to others. A man should take care of himself first, and not the nobility. The boy didn't expect to be asked to do something like this. It seems he was going to ignore orders, which no longer seems like a good idea. The lady thought that she alone had the highest status that could be used. The girl pointed at her former friend, quietly saying something as if asking the others around her to laugh, which accordingly they do almost immediately. Ratchapelle can't help but be angry. She can't believe that because of some trash, all those relationships that she carefully built with the Duchess are starting to collapse irrevocably. Behind the girl's father can be seen looking more angry than disappointed. It's time to go home, so the servants promise that the carriage will be ready in a few minutes. The young man does not intend to take Mia with him because this time they will get home separately. They nod, promising that they will pass on everything, knowing that the girl is standing behind. The heroine again found herself in that same terrible dream full of pain. She was always cruel, but what is she afraid of then while shedding bitter tears? Selena always says something, but her voice is not heard. We will have to wait because very soon what happened will end. The girl did her best to restore order in her worldly life, but so far nothing has changed, at least not so dramatically. Howitt will soon go after the original and will not regret what she has done. Apparently the body is not able to rest until it is killed and left to God. The lady woke up in the middle of the night during the rain, which pleasantly knocked on the glass. The girl was tired of her friend appearing in her dreams, and when they were next to each other, she would certainly kick her ass. When Blue Eyes first woke up in this new unknown world, it was spring, but now the weather is getting warmer because summer is beginning. Lucas asks if the girl has finished her business, to which she nods. It seems that she is not feeling the best because she looks pale. Everything can be blamed on fatigue after the engagement. Even though the whole day after the ceremony was spent in bed, nothing has changed. Selena knows what her friend doesn't know because she spent the night with nightmares. The servants were allowed not to see the girl off even if she was dressed so simply. Today, they had, so to speak, a mini day off in which they could relax. The lady said she wanted to go outside to regain her memory a little, thanks to the Duke's consorts who are worried about Selena. It was decided that Lucas would go out too. Aiden, standing to the side, looks a little sad. The Lord comes closer, asking that the Dukes be told that the couple will return before sunset. A young man is like an open book that can be read until he has enough. He must learn to control his emotions at least a little. Blushing, the man still pretends that he does not understand what is required of him. It is worth being careful for the sake of honor God, and for your own sake so as not to spoil anything. It can be said that the escort may not be feeling well. The lady noticed that the behavior had changed a little before they went anywhere. The girl falls and hits her tailbone because the carriage caught a wheel on a bump which almost caused it to flip over. At each meeting, the interlocutor asks if everything is okay, while imperceptibly provoking aggression, which is already difficult to contain on a permanent basis. There are too many people around pushing here and there, and the girl, without even noticing it, walks forward, not even looking around, and the man again has to ask if she is okay. For starters, it would be best to move to another place because the number of people, of which there are literally several hundred, starts to make your head spin. This was more like the first time in the lady's life when she was doing tourism. It is hard to believe that she did not know how the condition can worsen when there are many people around. It was only because her younger sister was constantly sick and missed school that the girl was never allowed to go anywhere, even on school trips, which made her behave like that in the future. Lucas is a little worried about the lady's condition, so he insistently asks to undergo an examination. Precisely because of what happened recently, the hero constantly asks about her health. Before this, the beauty had not had the opportunity to say, but she noticed that recently the Lord began to address Selena only by name. He ceased to be respectful as he should have been. Lucas in the novel always portrayed friendliness, and perfect manners were an integral part of him, but for some reason now he becomes more familiar around the Duchess. The reason could be that Aaron is a close friend, but it seems that everything fell into place. The hero tries to make friends with the lady who does not understand how they got to this point. In fact, if they become friends, nothing terrible will happen. This was not the boy's goal initially, but now he begins to understand that they could try something new. What is said is perceived with hostility, so the refusal follows almost immediately. They should think about where to start the walk, but in fact it will be quite possible to go to some uncrowded places. All this time, the Duchess was looking for a suitable place for her death. A quiet and hidden place where no one would find the body would be the best option. They approach the only tower in the duchy where a clock exists. Unfortunately, the young man will not allow them to go up there, so there is no need to think of anything stupid. The hero is worried by the fact that the beauty often eats commoners' food which she buys on the street. He still cannot understand what this is connected with. Initially, the lady had no choice, so she ate what was given to her. Now, despite the fact that she can choose anything, the girl remains restrained and tries to do so as not to exalt herself. A loud cry is heard from a man who is outraged that a beggar woman from the street scratched his carriage. Since he is dressed like that, it is clear that he will not be able to get anything back. Lucas exhales, trying to calm down, although it is obvious that he is quite tired of such scenes wherever a person goes. Aristocrats make unnecessary scenes. He suggests leaving before more people gather. The maiden is not going to leave so confidently standing up. She goes straight towards the squabble. If they raise a cane at her, the knight will be obliged to stop her so as not to hurt the lady. The girl still cannot believe that she witnessed such a spectacle, which she clearly did not like. She remembered something that happened a long time ago. How it can't just stand by and watch the horror she sees. She steps forward in front of the old man and asks him to stop, knowing that most likely nothing will work. He wanted to say something, but it seemed he realized that he was standing in front of not just a ragamuffin, but a real aristocrat. Stepping back, the hero assures that he simply wanted to teach the child a lesson. Aristocrats are simply obliged to punish for mistakes because if this is not done, it is not clear what will happen to the morality of society and the world in which they live. The lady hears talk from the crowd about the guy driving the carriage at high speed and then blaming someone else. She tears the cane away from the man. A furious cry is heard around that the girl does not dare to allow herself to go too far, and now she must apologize and return the accessory back preferably as quickly as possible. When the guards arrive, Howitt will say that she was hit on the knees pretending that she did nothing wrong. In fact, no one will tell what happened. The old man also tried to shift the blame onto the boy. Although he himself almost hit him at great speed, the lady would have simply done the same to the one who was guilty. The Lord cannot help but laugh when the rest of the assembled promise that they will confirm the lady's words to the guard, just so that the aristocrat gets what he deserves, as it should have been. The couple didn't know who was standing in front of them, but so be it. The man has a lot of things to do, so he is going to run away. Usually only those who are cowardly do this. After that strange character left, the lady sits down next to the young man, saying that there will still be many strange people in the world, but that does not mean that you always need to indulge them. You need to be more careful. At the moment, the strangest thing was the beauty. So Lucas said that it was time for them to leave in the alley. He noticed that the dress had managed to wear out a little and was almost torn. The knee should also hurt after what happened. But the young man, like a caring friend, clarifies that in fact breaking the cane was not in the plans. It was just that it had already come apart and then was unable to stop. The couple is about to head home. They take the shortest route possible, since in order to get back in that time, they will have to go through a crowded place. It is clear from her face that the lady is quite tired, so the hero nods, to which she immediately agrees he would like to quickly find himself at home in a warm bed. They will arrive at their destination right after the night gets rid of the rats that followed them. Something like that was in the novel, but it is completely unclear where they came from. Selena stands behind the young man, who decides to leave peacefully. They only have one bag of money with them, but if that is enough, they can leave quite calmly. The Lord tries to avoid violence because the Duchess is nearby, although it is obvious that nothing good will come of it. What is offered will not be enough, so the man asks, what else is needed? The gang leader was ordered to catch a rude girl who pretends to be an aristocrat and then teach her a lesson, so it's impossible to refuse such an opportunity. In other words, the assembled simply do not know their place because they dared to want to take the lady when the knight who was ordered to protect her was nearby. Since this is the case, they must be ready to give their lives and then not regret anything. Now the girl understood what kind of expression her friend had when he was angry. The atmosphere changed a lot. The best solution would be to do nothing, because if someone dies, the Duke will immediately know and understand that there was an attempt to attack his daughter. She hopes to continue going out, so there is no choice. Although the young man did not intend to engage in battle, his opponents did not consider it right. They rushed forward, and he had to defend himself. The hero pressed the lady to his chest so tightly that she could not breathe. In order to continue the fight and not let go of his companion, the man asks her to hug him tighter and not let go until it's all over. At this time, the servants found a rat in the castle, which they killed since they should not breed. Aiden was sent to take the package outside to the garden. Carefully looking around, the hero lowers the mouse and then revives it. He woke up and unfortunately all the wounds could not be healed. But surviving Jane's blow is something incredible. The kid runs off somewhere into the forest. He should be more careful and not climb into the Duke's house again so that the maid doesn't accidentally finish him off next time out of anger. Aiden asks himself to pull himself together. No one should know about his feelings, and it doesn't even matter how others look at him. If the lady is the one who gives him contempt, it will be the end. Howitt curses the day she decided to go to this place. It's hard for her to hold on to Lucas's body and not get in the way, but there's no point in complaining because it's even harder for the guy now. The couple is so close that the beauty can even hear the heartbeat, which is quite measured. The guy carefully lets go of the girl, saying that it's all over, which means she can relax. The young man asks to let him know as soon as the lady feels bad again, and in that case they can overcome it together. She tries to calm down. Someone attacks from behind, but Lucas quickly repels the obvious attack. The lady begs him to go back because she is pretty tired of this. The couple slowly moves forward along the path, but a second later the heroine falls on the asphalt trying to overcome the pain. In the garden, the maid is picking flowers just like Aiden, who is trying to help her as best he can. It will soon be dark, and now it seems the lady has arrived. The man throws a bouquet into Jane's hands, asking her to take it to Howitt's room. A few minutes later, the hero found himself next to the butler, who expressed joy that someone had arrived. This carriage did not belong to the lady. An old man emerges from the carriage looking strange but familiar, wearing a silver brooch and indigo-colored clothes, which makes it clear. The man seemed to be seeing a real magician for the first time, and it seemed he had come from some department. The Duke was already waiting for Mr. Allegan. The boy is unable to tear his eyes away from the one passing by, and the newcomer also pays attention to the one who is literally glowing with happiness. People usually come to the estate to present new magical technologies, but this is the first time that a magician himself has come. Allegan chuckled, thinking about that blonde guy at the entrance. He clearly had potential, and the hero himself seemed interesting. The Duchess sits next to the knight, who is clearly angry with himself. Judging by the way he behaves, there is a strange atmosphere in the air. From what they told, it became clear that the lady had broken that cane a long time ago, but only now her leg began to hurt. The lady assumes that she broke her knee, but at this rate it happened even earlier. The pain should have appeared when walking. The blonde reaches his hand to his knee but hears a sound of pain coming from the beauty. He hasn't touched her yet, but then you can imagine how painful it will be if you do something. To begin with, in order to understand something, you need to look at it from all sides in order to understand how it relates to anything at all. The lady, without embarrassment, lifts her skirt higher, making her companion blush. The girl asks not to worry and not to pay attention because she just needed to examine the condition, but it would be difficult not to look at something like this. The leg looks absolutely terrible and should have started hurting a long time ago, which can only be surprising that it didn't happen earlier. It should have been said right away. A new voice is heard from behind. The hero heard that the lady was hurt and decided that in any case he could at least try to help. The guy is kind of pale, so you might think he's a vampire, but it turns out he's a priest named John, and he's going to do something. To prove his involvement with the temple, and not to arouse unnecessary suspicion, the hero lifts his sleeve to show his insignia. If it doesn't bother the hero, then he can of course help. The leg begins to hurt even more, and therefore it is impossible to move further. The man comes closer and sits down near the bench, pressing his palms with force. The hero reads some kind of spell and thereby heals the wound. The couple headed back to the estate. Ian admitted that he had seen the girl save a child from a rampaging aristocrat. The determination to help the weak, when it was not so difficult for him to suffer, was like an act of kindness, an act that reminded the priest of his immaturity and the need for further training. The hero said exactly that back then, but Lucas realized that he still didn't understand why the lady had changed so much. She was the one who was called an indifferent monster. The beauty behaves as if she has become a completely different person, as if another soul has moved into her, and the most disturbing thing is that empty look. They pass by the garden they once walked in, and the girl is focused on the tower. It seems to become clear that she wants to die. Every time the warrior sees this bright red sunset, the very memories he tried so hard to avoid pop into his head. In the past, the guy already had someone die, which brought him a lot of pain, so now the lady will not have to go through the same thing. Night has come, but the servant cannot fall asleep. Aiden tossed and turned in bed for an hour and finally gave in and sat up. The mages of the Empire are a respected people. They are called lords, and they are in fact true aristocrats who are many times better than the rest. That guy with glasses who was standing behind then looked like an ordinary person. I would like to know what they would say about someone like that, like a servant. There is probably a slightly different attitude towards common people which is unlikely to change. Even after some time, the boy does not understand what to do next, and goes to the window. The power of mana depends on the moon, which shines brightly when it is in the sky. He still cannot understand why he managed to obtain that strange ability. Even decades later, Lucas cannot forget that very sunset that changed his life, when the young man was still a child who did not know problems. The boy called his parents to hurry up, but his father, laughing slightly, asked them not to hurry so much, because they both knew that his mother couldn't run. The hero remembers how things are, and so he runs back, clinging to the woman he values most in this world. The lady feels much better, but the boy's dad reminds him that things are not so good yet, so there is no need to be selfish. Lucas was from a family of fallen aristocrats. His father hid his status and went to his regular job every day at dawn to earn money. The baby endured no matter how cold or hungry he was, because all he wanted was for his mother to get better and for her not to leave him. The woman always asked not to worry and asked the boy to lie down next to her to hug and give love she would recover very soon. The hero quickly learned what the world could really be like, what kind of people exist, and what they could be like. It became known that the family found itself in this situation because the aunt stole all the property. If only the previous money had been there, mother would have been cured. The boy's anger did not make the family less poor. His father volunteered to join the monster fighting squad under the command of his uncle Earl Hunter. The man asked not to worry, even if it seemed dangerous. If he went to the battlefield, a friend would help with the costs of treatment. Dad promised that he would return very soon and everything would be fine, but while he was gone, the boy had to look after his mother. No one kept their promises, and after 3 months, no one was going to help. The baby ran to his aunt, screaming that the girl would not live a day without medicine. The woman handed over the money, but said that this was the last time. If Lucas came, even one more time, he would be in serious trouble. Anger was building up, but the hero understood that something else was more important now. Picking up the bag, he was going to quickly run to the hospital because the sun was already setting. The boy begged and pleaded to sell the medicine, but the man only said that there was too little money and then slammed the door right in the boy's face. No one wanted to help this family, but it was impossible to give up so that nothing terrible would happen. Lucas ran home in half an hour. The woman puts her hand on her son's cheek and quietly says his name, trying to move. A second later, a cough is heard and blood comes from the mouth. The girl called her son one last time, and then her hand fell limply onto the bed, making it clear that it was all over, that it was no longer possible to hold back the tears. The child was incredibly scared, and he begged his mother not to abandon him, but nothing helped. It seemed that what had to be avoided by all means had come. There were a lot of rumors around. They said that the guy didn't even have enough money for a coffin, so he wrapped the body in a rag and buried it. He's an aristocrat, but the grave is in a common place. The hero sat for days on end next to the bed of his mother, whom he still had not changed, and all this continued until the moment someone knocked on the door. The father returned from the war and hugged his son. His look was exhausted, and as if life had ended for him too. No longer holding his emotions, and the hero began to cry. The man was missing his left arm, and the baby noticed it too late, which scared him even more than before. It was incomprehensible and frightening. It was then that everything was decided, and Lucas promised himself that he would definitely survive in this world, which despite all the complexity should be better. Duke Howat has been a strong support for the boy from the very beginning. The boy's father sacrificed his hand to save the man during the war, so he promises to do his best and keep an eye on him. It was possible to try to fix something, but now the young man does not trust people because he believes that they are two-faced. Now no one was able to see the real young man, but there was only one family to whom he was able to swear allegiance and open his heart. The door opens and Aaron appears there with a bottle of wine that he got from somewhere. He thought that since the light was on, it meant that his friend was not yet asleep and they could talk. The conversations as usual flow along their course, but then the facial expression changes. The man cannot stop thinking about Selena. The girl seems carefree because she talks as usual and eats with everyone else, and for some reason the feeling doesn't go away that she could just up and disappear. Lucas is asked if the lady seems stable, but he remains silent because he remembers that very moment in the carriage that put everything in its place. Aaron just wants his sister to stand with her head held high and not be afraid of the world. In fact, his friend has a lot to tell, but first he asks about a priest named Ian. It's hard to believe that there is a person with such power that can help heal the wound in Selena's heart. They can go there together to fix everything. The temple would certainly not hide such a priest, but then even more questions arise going out onto the balcony. The young man notices Aiden standing to the side. It seems that the people in the mansion have been attacked by insomnia. Today, bowing his head, the guy is about to leave quickly, but he is stopped to buy time to go down. Soon, the blonde will leave with the younger Duke for a few days on an important trip, so he gives the servant an assignment. He will be obliged to make sure that nothing happens to the lady. It all sounds like a warning, and lately, Lucas has been getting to know the hero more and more from a side he's never seen before. For some reason, Aiden doesn't want to bow his head and apologize now, because the other person was the one who started the argument. In order to leave, he can cite the late hour as an argument. This time, the knight says seriously that if the lady tries to go somewhere, the boy is obliged to stop her, and even better not let her go anywhere because no one knows how this will end. The hero is not going to be released until it is clear what needs to be done in the absence of the guard, and in the end, they agree on something. The older brother says goodbye to Selena before they go on a trip. The girl must be careful and monitor her health. Most likely, this is the last time the couple sees each other. The guy loved his little sister until the very end, so it will be difficult to just say goodbye to her. The heroine openly wishes him a good journey and asks him to take care of himself. From now on, the young man should not live as a secondary character because he can be real. Lucas steps forward, grabbing the lady's hand and asking her to look after him too. She nods, asking her friend to look after Howitt in return. A lot has happened during this time, and the lady has probably caused him a lot of trouble, but she hopes that one day he will be able to forgive. The Duke, thinking that the couple has been holding hands for too long, breaks their bonds and pulls his friend closer to the carriage, asking why he couldn't get there faster. Before leaving, the hero looks one last time at the blonde man, who does not understand what they want from him. The conversation is again about the clock tower. The guy knows that he was understood, so he won't be upset about it. The man says goodbye and bows his head, although he still doesn't know what the meaning is. In the carriage, the Duke gives his friend a searching but more angry look, disappointed by the way the boy held his sister's hand near the castle. Aaron, even though he is a brother, can't hold a lady's hand. He should have realized that one day someone will hold her hand permanently, and maybe it will happen soon. Whoever the girl's future partner is, he will have to overcome a steep barrier no matter what to be close. Before Selena lost her memory, she really liked Lucas, but he wasn't interested in her at all. The way she had changed could affect his attractiveness. The guy is a dear person, but this does not mean that the Duke is going to give him his sister, whom he values much more. The knight inside is torn apart by loneliness and anger mixed with resentment towards the whole world. How it needs someone calmer who can make the lady smile constantly. The clock tower is an eyesore again, which makes him feel uneasy. And Lucas suggests tearing it down now. It's safe to say that he's definitely not himself. A lady sits at a table with tea and looks at various invitations to various events, which, after being read out loud, are sent to the trash. The man asks the lady to stop, and he takes up a knife with which he smoothly begins to cut each letter in order to simplify the task. Lady Jonas has invited the girl to a tea party in the rose garden, which seems like a great idea since it only takes place in the summer and is presented as exclusive. What was written sounded interesting, so very soon the heroine told Aiden that the two of them were going there. The blonde runs back into his room and puts the teapots and cups on the table. He goes to the mirror and tries to loosen his tie, blushing. Of course, going with Howitt doesn't mean anything, but this time there won't be Lucas or Jane there, who are usually somewhere nearby. The boy ran back asking for forgiveness for being late. It was no big deal, they were just leaving. His face was like that of a happy child. It was impossible not to notice. The girl looks at all the servants with whom she says goodbye. They did everything for her, and she would like to thank them in this place. Everything seemed alien, but things have changed. The Duke's family showed what it was like to be loved, and what it was like to love someone more than yourself. This place will remain only in memories. It seems that the lady was disturbed a little, even if it was not intentional. The hero was trying to cover the girl from the sun that was shining directly in her face. The lady grabs the guy by the hand and pulls him closer to her seat. From this side, it will be much more convenient to close off from the sun with the help of the body shade. The best solution would be to sleep, while the carriage heads forward somewhere into the unknown. The heroine will quietly sacrifice herself and will not suffer any more. The guy looks at the menu with cakes that he has never even seen in his life. Each of them, unfortunately, is too expensive. So with his salary, there is nothing to do here. The heroine is about to move away, but notices that same look from the blonde man. If she disappears right now, he will sit and wait without eating a single piece of what he wants so badly. All that's left is to sit back down and ask them not to pay attention. The guy is smiling from ear to ear, talking about how delicious everything is here. The young man has never tried anything like this, so he even wants to ask what ingredients they use. It is certainly a great last dinner together, although perhaps the desserts are too sweet. Aiden is worried about the lady's condition. He also had to tell them not to bring the chocolate cake because the lady doesn't like it. If the servant eats chocolate cake, then the girl may well also try something tasty. She is going to sit a little longer so as not to spoil the mood. It's impossible not to notice that Aiden is having fun compared to how he behaves in the estate. The boy seems to glow with happiness that has befallen him. It's not that the hero has relaxed too much, because everything is about something else, the girl interrupts, asking what her friend is going to do next. It seems that the best option is to continue working in the estate, although the lady believes that it would be better to find something that would be more to her liking than cleaning and serving. The boy could open a pastry shop or become a magician, as he had long wanted given the potential. If he was allowed to speak out, it had long been calculated how much money would be needed to leave the estate. Ultimately, it was decided to stay no matter what because Howitt wanted to serve at least until she was old enough to be an independent person. If the girl hadn't been there, the friend would have started doing his favorite thing a long time ago. But that won't happen yet. It's time to go to the pink velvet salon. The lady hasn't seen Selena since the engagement ceremony and is now incredibly happy they will be together at tea, but for now they will choose dresses suitable for the evening together for each other. It turned out that the evening was being arranged by Vivian, which already makes it clear that there is at least some sense in this. The owner of the salon believes that she does not deserve the praise of her friends, but her outfits are truly wonderful. One garment after another begins to flash before your eyes, and this makes you want to scream because it's extremely easy to get confused each time they ask whether the lady liked one of them or not. Howitt points to a hanger with some other dresses that he likes. These are everyday clothes and not suitable for tea drinking. The neat white outfit immediately catches the eye and seems to symbolize death in its simplicity, and both the clothes and the interior of the salon are simply amazing. If the brunette works with local aristocrats, then the salon will probably also prosper. They settled in a small building, so the layout of the rooms is a little strange. There is an emergency exit in the house in case of a fire, or something else. It is located in the locker room, where you can exit without any problems, since the safety of clients is above all. The conversation is interrupted by shouts at the door where the maid is trying to stop. Madame Rachapelle does not want to give in, because according to her, the dresses are needed right now. Mia is already swinging at one of the girls who was trying to send the lady away, but then she is stopped by Howitt, who comes out ahead of everyone. All this time, Selena was the one who occupied the space in this room. Jonas carefully sticks out from behind and does not understand why the girl tried to use such methods. Perhaps the redhead doesn't have to wait her turn, while they can always choose something together. It's even good that the girl came in at such a timely moment. The heroine's father eats measuredly and then puts his fork aside. His daughter wants to say something, but she is interrupted so that she doesn't get in the way at the most inopportune moment. Mia was given only one task, and that was that she was to stay close to Howitt's daughter no matter how much money it took or what tricks she could resort to. In the end, it somehow turned out that now not only the servants but even the aristocrats hate their entire family after that ill-fated evening, where the lady did not control herself. The Count is stern, so he will write the girl out of the inheritance, and if she does not find another way to get closer to the lady, he will throw her out of the house in which she lives, not at his own expense. Everything happened because of amnesia and the opportunity to return. Everything was taken away by Jonas herself, who, noticing the facial expressions of her friend, smiles and asks her not to clench her teeth so hard so that they don't break. The tea is ready to start the tea party, but Mia is out of her mind, so it can wait. A smile appears on the brunette's face from what is happening. Both the maid and the knight Vivian quietly chuckle on the sidelines as if mocking the noblewoman herself. Only Aiden looks puzzled by what is happening. There is a servant of the girl standing on that side, and if the friend noticed this, she should control her tone, because she has no right to shout at the people of Howitt who belong only to her. The lady seems to have a fever, so she asks to buy her some antipyretic. Mia is sitting behind her, still angry, and doesn't understand what she's doing here. The blonde foresaw that not everything might go as smoothly as it should, so he brought everything in advance. He made it so that he wouldn't have to worry about it if it's cold. He can also bring a blanket. Just in case, the man also prepared a first aid kit in case the girl got hurt and spare shoes. He even had cookies and lemonade in the carriage in case he suddenly got hungry. All these preparations are very similar to the young man, but the plan must be completed to the end, so the beauty asks to buy an antipyretic with a strawberry flavor. If Aiden leaves the studio, the heroine will be left alone, but there is no point in worrying because in the end, Lady Jonas's friends and knights will be nearby. They will look after Howitt, and if everything is so, the hero is going to leave. It is clear from his face that it is better not to trust him completely, but no one left a choice. Before leaving the room, the young man looks at her with an inquisitive gaze, hoping that the lady will not go anywhere and leave him alone. This question is extremely stupid. The guy is too worried, and it becomes noticeable to everyone gathered. The lady nods, promising that everything will be fine while holding back her cold gaze. The carriage finally arrives at the temple, and a priest runs out of it greeting the Duke and expressing his joy at the visit. If only it had been known that Howitt would arrive, the clergy would have greeted them differently this time. It is an unofficial visit, so there is no need to worry. In the room along the way, one can honor the goddess Ariana, but it is impossible to let someone of such high rank into such a room, so the young man suggests going a little further. They were in a room for commoners, but for aristocrats, there is a separate estate where they can pray in peace. It turned out that the Duke was looking for someone. A few days ago, a priest from this temple helped his sister, and now it would be best to meet him in person. Speaking of, Jan Lucas would also like to personally thank the young man for the help he provided in that park. This is a great opportunity for the temple, but it is strange that all this had to be done by the same person the priest managed to shake money out of Howitt. The man knocked persistently on the door, but having lost all patience, he burst in shouting for the boy to come out quickly, as aristocrats should not be kept waiting. The hero was praying, so there was no opportunity to say anything. He decided to pretend to be serious, which irritated the main one. Two respected aristocrats want to see Jan. They want to see him, so before going out into society, the young man is obliged to put on good clothes. In just 10 minutes, the duo found themselves in that very hall, the brunette asking for forgiveness for the wait they had to go through. The boy is unable to try to overcome himself, so he is surprised by what he sees. In front of him is the very knight who was in that garden. Lucas noticed the pressure that was being put on the patriarch, so he immediately said that they need to talk in private. He understands that this is the best and most correct way. The priest is still too inexperienced, so it would be better for everyone to stay together. However, the blonde does not want to repeat himself twice. He lowers the tone of his voice. A little scared, the brunette nods actively, promising that they can talk as much as their soul desires, and he will return as soon as the name is heard. Jan has no right to try to behave inappropriately because it will entail a lot of consequences. The hero must try not to tarnish the name of the church. The boy is clearly not liked here, but it is not yet clear why exactly he also has abilities, but it seems they are ignored. There are still doubts about what is happening because perhaps this is not the best idea. I remember the words of the Duke who said that Selena needs the help of this young man. A priest must be invited to the estate, and it is not only about the daughter-talented people must be recruited by the Howitt family before other aristocrats are able to notice them. Aaron shakes her hand, expressing gratitude for helping his little sister. The girl struck Ian to the depths of his soul, so he did what he had to. As it turned out, first Selena saved the child, and then when she was attacked by thugs, she was not even afraid of this understanding. The importance. Aiden had already reached the nearest pharmacy. Unfortunately, they didn't seem to have strawberry-flavored medicine, but maybe they had it somewhere else. This simply does not exist, which already makes it clear that the man serves a very picky aristocrat. They are always asking for something impossible. Finding himself on the street, the hero thinks even more about what is happening. For some reason, he is unable to listen to himself, and therefore the anxious feeling does not go away. The boy runs back with all his might, realizing that something is pulling him back, and that he cannot allow something terrible to happen after what the lady tried to do earlier. Vivian shows her friend different dresses, saying that each one looks like it was made especially for her. Mia laughs, noting that she is just sucking up, but she defends herself. While the duo are choosing the best option, the lady expresses her desire to try on something else. Madame understands her at a glance, knowing that she can definitely offer. The lady promises that she can handle it alone and leaves the lady with those who are still yelling at each other. It seems like it won't end that way. The maiden takes off her dress and then puts on the same snow-white one that she had noticed a long time ago in the hall. It looks like a cloud. The lady quietly opens the door, which was supposed to serve as an emergency exit, and gradually steps outside, and this is where the story should end. Ian listens calmly to the proposal before saying anything. He can't be the personal priest of the Howitt family because there is some problem with that. The idea still remains in his head that the boy is not yet experienced enough, and therefore, accordingly, he cannot do anything other than silently pray. He does not want to disgrace the Duke's name. The Holy Father's ability is simply terrible, so he should not try to use it so as not to harm people. He does not want God to see sins. There are many doctors in the country who are more talented and know what they are doing, but it is strange that the couple came to Jan, who will not do anything. The priest was treated so terribly that now he cannot believe that he is actually a good man and that he is the only man who can help Aaron's sister. Selena is very ill, and no doctor can cure what is consuming the lady more and more every day. The brunette gets scared and asks what it is. Howitt doesn't know when the girl will break, but she is clearly like fragile glass that is about to crack. If something happens, forgiveness will never be earned. 4 knights were ordered to accompany the lady, and the Duke himself requested this, but the lady somehow slipped past and ran away in an unknown direction. The butler saw the girl go for a walk with Aiden, and so he thought that everything would be fine and that she was feeling fine. The knights must gather right now to find Selena as quickly as possible. The door opens, and there is the man's wife standing there with a kettle. She understands literally everything from her husband's face, who quickly runs out of the office, promising that he will return the girl. The servant had already managed to run back to the studio. He had managed to cover the distance twice as fast as usual, and therefore there was no air left in his lungs. The lady found herself embroiled in a fight between girls who were getting on her nerves, and she points to the fitting room where the lady had gone half an hour ago. Looking at the wall clock, the lady understands that the mistress has been there for a while. It's strange that she still hasn't finished with that one dress that she picked out for herself. Aiden has no intention of following any rules of etiquette, and so he bursts into the fitting room faster than anyone else. There was no one there. Just emptiness. Sir Lucas had warned the young man repeatedly to keep an eye on Selena, who was still as unstable as ever, but it had failed. He had let everyone down. The atmosphere in the room became somewhat heavy, but there was no time to waste. The servant remembered the clock tower, so pushing Madame away, he hurried to the exit to head there. Before jumping out through the emergency exit, the guy asks the brunette for a favor. She must send someone to the estate and warn about the tower to which the young lady could go. The girls in the audience are strictly not allowed to say anything to prevent rumors from spreading. Aiden hopes he can rely on that. Tears are already flowing uncontrollably down her face due to the realization of the situation. This is exactly what the heroine wanted when she sent the guy away to go to the place of her death. Regardless of where he is running, the boy crashes into a cart with apples, which he overturns on himself and falls. There is a sharp pain in his knee, but it does not matter, because the main thing is that the lady waits. This time it's the same. The girl in her last minutes again thinks about her sister, who often asked to read that very novel. When the child is refused, she starts to cry, saying that she was looking forward to coming. And in the end, for some reason, they tell her no. She is tired of hanging around in these white walls. The girl gently hugs the little girl, who screams that everything is unfair and everything is against her, and now she will do everything to avoid upsetting her. The beauty was constantly angry, but now it was not so important, because the end came immediately. She would no longer have to return to the past and experience all the same things. It was impossible to hate my sister because she needed someone by her side. If they met, there would be a lot to tell, and one would have to hope that things would be good there. The Duke went off with the knights to search, leaving his wife standing on the threshold. Lucas looks anxiously at that very tower, squinting a little. The girl slowly climbs up. She is already tired, but there are many more steps left than she managed to climb. This idea was not the best from the very beginning. You can't stop until no one has arrived, because otherwise all plans will be ruined. The clock suddenly starts striking, announcing the time, which makes you cover your ears with your hands. The desire to die drives her forward, and this will be the end at least. This time the girl is not going to give up so easily before she gets hers. Aiden has absolutely no strength left, but he tries to go until the very end because he understands what awaits him. In the end, he falls on the stairs. The hero must hurry, and after a few minutes he manages to climb to the very top. The lady stands on the very edge like an angel in a white dress. The girl took off her shoes and looked somewhere into the sky. Hearing Aiden's voice, she persistently recommends him not to come even a centimeter closer so as not to spoil anything, understanding what exactly follows after that. Lowering her legs down, the lady wonders why the young man came after he was told to leave. This time he should have obeyed too. Their paths must finally diverge because the lady knows what the hero had to go through. Because of her bad behavior, time will not heal the wounds that were opened. There is no point in asking to forget everything and make sure that nothing happens again, because it is impossible to forget. There will always be something inside that cannot be removed. No matter how difficult it will be, the guy simply has to hide his heart deeper. He will turn around and take this necessary step towards a better life. The boy will go forward with his head held high so that nothing happens. She is sure that she has never lived her own life, but she has the right to say such things to others. Despair is getting closer and closer, leaving no chance to do anything. They will not be able to go together because the lady has already decided everything a long time ago and knows what needs to be done. Aiden hurries to the edge, but the girl leans back and slowly flies to the ground. It seems that she can no longer be saved or caught even if time is slowed down. Jane is cleaning the lady's room carefully, wiping away the dust that had managed to accumulate before the mistress returned. It is imperative that everything shines. Aiden jumps out after the lady, who also looks at the clear sky. All the mana that has accumulated over 2 months will be used right now. The heroine should never die like this without giving herself a single chance. Magic is gathering in the sky, which comes from the guy's palms. Light carefully picks the girl up under him, and then the blonde moves closer, hugging the lady with all his might, who seems to feel nothing. They fell to the ground together, pain spreading through the body of the young man, who tries to get up and crawl closer to the girl who rolled somewhere to the side. So blood is coming out of the lady's head and spreading around in a puddle. Even all the hero's mana was not enough to do anything towards saving her, and he hoped for something. In the distance, the sound of horses' hooves and the voices of knights can be heard. The Duke moves closer to those in the shadow of the foliage. It seems they are too late. The man grabs his daughter, smearing his hands all over with blood, which he doesn't care about. He hugs the girl further, trying not to cry, but the tears flow on their own. A second later, it becomes clear that the heroine is still breathing, even if very weakly. A carrier pigeon must be sent to Aaron, who is in the temple right now. Aiden winces in pain and coughs, but promises that he will go to the temple and bring a priest who will be able to heal the girl. There is not much time left. The hero concentrates with all his might, speaking about the place where the master himself is now. The magic is looking for the man, and finally he manages to feel his voice. The door to the room opens, and on the threshold the young man falls to his knees. Those gathered are frightened and ask why the servant came in such a state. The hero barely speaks, but Lucas manages to hear something about the lady and help. If nothing is done, the girl may simply die. The maids are running around the estate collecting everything they need. One brought more water, and the other brought towels with which they could clean their bodies. The doctors are trying their best to do something, and the first thing they should do is stop the bleeding, but nothing is working. At this rate, the lady may not survive the night. The Duchess almost loses consciousness, but pulls herself together in time. She doesn't want to sit on the chair because her daughter is now on the brink of her life, and it's hard not to talk about it. It all happened on the ill-fated clock tower, which made the others worry there was no way out because in this case, everything was already bad. The lady is still alive, but she hit her head hard, so the next few hours will be crucial for her. She needs to contact the Holy Father immediately. Father Jan is the one who can save the girl. And so they must go to that place right now so as not to miss anything and not make the situation worse. The brunette is clearly worried. He is not sure that he will be able to heal such a serious wound which is almost life-threatening, and therefore he will stop relying on his own strength. Aiden starts to cry even more and bows his head to fall to his knees. It can't be said that everything is that simple, but he worries about Selena the most. The girl deserves at least one more chance at life, which this time will be able to make her happy to the fullest, no matter what. Seeing how much the hero is worried, the brunette gathers up his courage and asks to take him to the girl to try to fix something. He does not know what he can do, but for this he must put all his strength. The carriage is already outside, so the only thing left to do is to go forward. But for now, this is not the best option. The servant grabs the priest's hand. A second later, the duo disappears and only a lot of light from magic remains in the room. The Duke does not understand since when Aiden uses his hidden powers. They need to get going too. If they want to make it on time, Aaron falls to his knees, but he needs to pull himself together. He won't get anywhere with this behavior. Even when Selena took her older brother by the hand before their departure, she had already decided everything, but the young man did not notice anything. He reproaches himself for his carelessness. Lucas expresses his feelings in his appearance. He remembers how the lady said goodbye then, as if they were seeing each other for the last time, and immediately after they left the estate, she ran to the tower. As soon as she was freed from the inquisitive gaze of the others, the girl rushed to meet the death that she so strongly desired. There is pitch darkness around the brunette, which does not want to part to the sides. Perhaps she is simply on the road to hell where she belongs. Finally, I managed to meet Selena in person. Now there is no need to worry because the endless circle is over, as is life in misfortune. Death alone was finally avoided. Fate was escaped despite everything now, at least loved ones will mourn the beauty. Selena finally had the right to find peace. But only after some time did the lady realize that in front of her was not another person, but her own reflection. A familiar voice is heard in the distance calling for her sister. The girl with long hair notices that this kind of hairstyle suits her incredibly well, as if it gives her individuality. The little girl specially grew her hair, and on top of all that, she felt so much better. It's hard to believe that they're not going to scold her for the mistake that happened. The magic thickens in the middle of the room and Aiden appears there holding hands with Ian. They really hope that they are not too late and can still do something. The servant falls to his knees from the helplessness that has overtaken him. He replies that he is completely fine, but for now, nothing has changed. He only needs to think about Selena. The Holy Father runs up to the bed, even a little frightened by the amount of blood that is around. He does not know if he will be able to save the girl. Whatever the outcome, the couple is grateful to the young man for taking the time to come and help. Now everyone is counting on him and is going to help. The hero is not going to hesitate any longer, so he puts his hands to his forehead and begins to read some prayer. The forces gather around his head, forming a circle. Megumi hugs her little sister and smiles. She decides to ask how the lady ended up in this space. The girl was able to fly because obviously she wanted to see the beauty, so much the little girl asks to sit down next to her to show her something interesting. For some reason, the couple ended up in a movie theater. Megumi notes that this is the first time she has been to such an interesting place, because when she was sick, she couldn't go anywhere except the ward. The screen shows vivid images of Selena's life and how she had to overcome herself doing too much. She does not want her sister to see this, so she covers her eyes with her hand. It would be better not to watch this, but it turns out that the little girl had already seen everything when she died. Moments from her life flashed before her eyes. It is immediately clear how much the beauty had to endure, but she asks another most important question when Selena was 9. Obviously, she really wanted to kill her sister. At this time, the priest tries with all his might. The Duchess no longer finds the strength to stand on her feet, so kneeling, she begs God for her daughter to return. A 9-year-old child only wanted her mother to praise her and try to rejoice at any success, but in return, the woman was constantly dissatisfied with something. When the girl looked at her daughter, her gaze was very different. It was not the first time that the brunette had noticed such small changes. Before having a child, life was like a beautiful jar of candies, each of which you wanted to try, but now everything has changed. The heroine often complained on the phone that Megumi needed to go to the hospital again and have another operation. No one understood what to do, considering that there had been little work lately. The baby reaches out her hands to the girl who is peacefully resting in the crib. If her heart stops now, perhaps the mother will love her other daughter again. Her hands were already reaching for her neck, but then the girl was thrown aside by her mother, who could not believe what she had just witnessed. On that day, the heroine was thrown out the door for the first time and beaten for something that was not destined to happen. It became clear that there would never be happiness again. The girl squeezes her sister's hand tighter, and she looks at her with an inquisitive gaze, promising that she would never do such a thing. The youngest one doesn't deserve to suffer all the time, so the little one's collar just curled up, and she wanted to fix it to make it look prettier. The beauty hugs the girl and smiles. She reveals her deepest secret, because in fact the one who called her into the world was Megumi herself. As everyone knows, people can be given multiple lives over a long period of time. The heroine also always had one life that she did not know about. The brunette gasps in surprise. She couldn't even imagine that this was possible, and that Selena was also another life in reality. Life as a young Duchess became a new discovery. It is impossible to believe, but the love that the lady received from all those people really belonged only to her. They were never strangers. The girl did not know how everything would turn out. From the moment of birth in that life, the baby spent all her time in a hospital ward from which it seemed there was no exit. Megumi always relied on her little sister, and at the same time envied her health. When she was having a hard time, she had to restrain herself from throwing tantrums. Despite everything, the girl truly loved Selena. She was always selfish, and her friend was always there as if it were something self-evident. I wanted to believe in the best, but in reality, both Dad and Mom and the heroine herself brought the beauty to death, ruining her life until the very end. The child prayed to God and begged to give at least one more chance to his unfortunate sister, who deserved better in the new world. There should be only love. Now the lady began to understand why she was allowed to live this life again as Selena, and why everyone there loved and cherished the maiden. The sister no longer has to live for someone else, and she doesn't have to get tired for someone else either. She has to make herself happy because it's only in her hands. The heroine tried to die because she blindly believed that Selena's soul dreamed of it, but in reality the meaning was different. The past family made mistakes and led to this place. The servant turns to Aiden, who is sitting leaning against the wall. He is also wounded, so it wouldn't hurt to rest. The young man turns away, looking at the bed with the mistress. Jan still tries to the last and is not going to give up, but it seems that his strength is running out. His body flies to the side and falls on the cold floor. The gentleman is ordered to be taken to another room, and more people are called to help. The doctor notices that the bleeding on his head has finally stopped. The wounds on the body also disappeared, which means the critical moment may already be over, but it will only be known for sure when the lady wakes up. The mother sits down next to her daughter and gently strokes her hair. At that very moment, Lucas bursts into the room with Aaron. The girl looks more or less normal, apparently, thanks to the efforts of the Holy Father. The lady survived the most difficult, but there is still a little time left to wait. Desperately turning away, the heroine remembers everything she has done. She no longer has the last chance that she used on her own, thereby destroying everything. Selena's body is still alive, so nothing terrible will happen, but you can see that the matter is completely different. There is another problem that is hidden. The sister is scared and thinks that they will be disappointed in her. She jumped herself and caused a lot of emotional pain to her family. Now there will be a meeting as if nothing happened. After this, the Howitt family may simply turn away from the girl who has repeatedly made mistakes that will now not help her correct. If Selena's parents and loved ones end up hating her, she'll wish she'd died. Now they'd probably had enough of her antics. The common people also noticed that something had happened at the Duke's estate. It was such an hour, but lanterns were lit everywhere, as if it were clear daylight. The maid asks the chef to rest for now while they take care of everything else. She refuses, because new orders are never known. Servants are running around everywhere who had no intention of going to rest at such an hour. They are ordered to keep the door closed because the lady needs rest. Everyone except those on duty are required to disperse. The butler and Jane were the ones who agreed to take care of everything, and another maid asked to be nearby as the worries forced her to stand on her feet. Still, it's time for everyone to have a good rest and then do the rest of the work. Later they can switch. The maid had never honored the young mistress, but despite everything she is now more diligent. This can apply to everyone present. It's hard to believe that just a few months can change a person so dramatically. The Duchess is no longer recognizable, and she behaves much better. It was a great surprise for the man to see the girl who behaved completely differently now. Different, she even began to take care of ordinary servants. The lady often refused help, not understanding why everyone was so eager to get wet. If anyone wanted to go with her, they were obliged to take an umbrella. Even though it was cold outside, the heroine was still worried that those who served her might get caught in the rain and get sick. Something changed in her. Mom, people seem so stupid, even though they've been forgiven 1,000,000 times, but they still do something to earn trust again. Selena simply must wake up, and preferably as soon as possible. The lady needs to be kind to her employees. At least 9 more times, Jane can no longer hold back her tears. Megumi allows her little sister to hear the voices that constantly call her. She is unable to believe that all this is reality. The girl can't understand why everyone is acting this way because it seems like there is no real reason for it, and Aiden's desperate voice is heard most clearly. There is too much time for what the young man wants to say, and therefore if the girl does not return, he does not even suspect how he is going to live. Selena is determined to get back and is not going to give up so easily. After all, it is the train behind that has come to the call. It seems that it is time for the heroine to leave. The gift that her sister gave her is only the first, but obviously not the last she will remain to enjoy her life. Still, the beauty always listens to the requests of other people. She knows that this will not happen soon, but they will definitely meet again, no matter what. The girl goes inside and the train starts moving. Megumi runs because obviously she needs to say something else, but almost nothing can be heard. The girl desperately asks for forgiveness for living without noticing the suffering of others. Tears flow from her eyes after the meeting that happened, and after all the realization, Selena jumps up on the bed, opening her eyes. It seems silly, but in the end it was the sister who worried about Megumi more than anyone else, giving her all to the last drop. The price for providing such an opportunity is that there is no way to get to the other side. Everything will be fine, despite all the problems. Aaron, who was sitting next to her, finally noticed that his sister had woken up, the last tear rolling down her cheek. The heroine looks attentively at everyone who has gathered around her for several seconds and understands where this is all leading to. The mother hugs her daughter. The lady's hands are shaking a little from what is happening, and she tries to remain calm, gently patting the Duchess on the shoulder while she promises that everything will be fine. Aiden, who had been standing somewhere nearby just a second ago and looking at the painting, but Lucas didn't even have time to turn around to notice how he slipped through the door. His legs give way so he can't go too far. The guy slides down the wall, not noticing how a familiar figure approaches him. Raising his head, the hero asks Sir Lucas for forgiveness. Despite warnings, he did something wrong, and just a little bit more and trouble would have happened. The hero allows his acquaintance to rise and thanks him for the fact that the lady is alive. Thanks to him, if she had died, he probably would not even be alive either. The knight, as usual, was conducting his morning training, which was finally finished. Everyone gathered was given their equipment. Everyone is busy with their own affairs, so no one has free time. Only. Selena stands calmly near the window and looks at the sky. Jane runs into the ladies' room looking at the sun. The weather is great today, and if the lady doesn't mind, they could go for a walk somewhere. Even though the doctor said that everything was fine, it didn't change the situation. Several days had passed since she woke up, and I wonder why the heroine was constantly silent. Everyone is waiting for the Duchess to be full of energy and life again. After sunset, it gets a little cold, so the maid, having taken care, brought a warm blanket. The woman gently places her hand on the girl's palm, and she immediately perks up, trying to find out what exactly she needs and wants to say. The heroine wants to say something to her mother, father, and brother. Jane should not listen again, because everything is clear. Even so, she hurries to call the whole family. Blue-eyed, perhaps, stops the beauty for the last time. It seems that when she was unconscious, she heard the brunette's voice. Every time she came into the room, the girl called the mistress, and for this one can only thank her because it was incredibly important. The maid was actually just afraid to think about what would happen if the lady never woke up again. The Duchess apologized for making her worry. The girl gets up from her seat and moves away from the chair. It is time to put an end to what was started initially. The brother bursts into the room, happy that the girl has finally regained her memory. She smiles slightly, thanking them for coming to her at the first call. The father and mother were already in the room, each offering the girl a seat, but she refused almost immediately. The whole family is gathered, so it's time for Selena to sit down too. She freezes and, trying not to cry, slowly exhales and then falls to her knees. To be honest, the girl is still afraid of something and still does not know what a full life is, from which she is trying not to run away. The lady caused trouble to her family and constantly distanced herself. She constantly caused pain, but now she still asks for forgiveness. It was all the more terrifying when the lady stood on the edge of the building and hoped for a happy ending, Wishing for something is such a terrible thing that it brings pain to the chest. The Duchess sits down next to her and agrees that while her daughter has always been a difficult child, it doesn't mean they hold a grudge against her. What happened in the past is definitely of no importance anymore, and the lady forgives the little girl because she is just the one who made a mistake. No matter how many deeds a beauty does, her mother will still love her. No matter what, it is not so often that you meet people who, living their lives, realize how to make it better. If a lady ever doubts herself, she must remember that no matter how many people stand against her, and no matter how many doubts in order to protect the child, a woman will go to the very end. Only now does the blue-eyed girl begin to understand that no matter what the outcome, the lady would never have died completely alone as she thought then. The family loved the girl until the very end, and she did not notice this because of her bad behavior, which turned a blind eye to everything around her. The heroine can no longer hold back. She sobs, asking for forgiveness for everything she has done. She tearfully promises that this will never happen again. This family is exactly the one that was originally supposed to be the first and real one. Everything that matters in this world gradually becomes more important than everything else. The next morning was one of the worst in recent times. The girl had cried too much, so she woke up in a terrible state. Her eyes, as well as her face, were quite swollen. Previously, the beauty did not even think that she would stay in such a place. Even now, she finds it difficult to believe that this is really a real room and people who belong to her. She managed to return, and now it's not even a dream, and not something that will simply evaporate. Now the lady knows that these people will never abandon her, no matter what may happen. The girl was lucky to find out what it is like to be loved and cared for, and from that day on, she can live a full life like the real Selena. The beauty no longer intends to doubt herself, and there is nothing more to fear. She will move forward with her head held high. Aaron and Lucas walk across the balcony and stop when they see Selena. The brother smiles and waves while the other quickly turns away. The man is still offended, but it is impossible to blame him. Given the circumstances, he sincerely cared for the girl, and she jumped from the tower as soon as he briefly left the mansion. If the young man is still angry during their next meeting, the heroine is going to apologize as expected because she does not wish him any harm in any form. Aaron promises that his friend won't get away with it because he sees how he looks angrily at his sister. Waving away, the blonde orders her to take her hands away from his precious face. The beauty looks at the plates with desserts, which, as usual, seem simply wonderful to her. Strangely, perhaps she doesn't like them anymore. The heroine thinks only about Aiden since she woke up a good few days have passed, but he still did not dare to come in to visit. Asking Jane where the servant is now, the girl receives a strange answer, which makes her worry. She hopes that nothing happened to him. The lady should have sided with the young man as soon as she woke up, but instead she had to do everything except save her friend. The hero is tormented by nightmares. He sees the very tower to which he ran, rubbing his feet until they bled, and where they asked him for forgiveness for everything he did in the past. Another dream, with a terrible but identical ending, made the boy jump up in bed and look around restlessly. The blonde didn't even suspect that he was being used, so he acted like an idiot. Now what is happening will be a good lesson for him. The lady took the guy only to send him away and kill herself at any convenient opportunity so that her death would be pinned on him. If you think about it, the young man in full view can consider himself pathetic, because in that case, nothing will help. The acquaintance reports that the Duke sees the servant. The man shouldn't worry so much because it was only thanks to him that the lady was saved, and his lordship is unlikely to scold him for saving her. The interlocutor asks what's going on with Aiden's magic. He recalls how rumors began to spread about the power he possessed, and almost everyone who was there picked up on them. The blonde wasn't even to blame here because he himself didn't really understand what had happened. You could say that he had to act instinctively due to the emergency situation. The boy is still sure that the Duke is angry with him because such powerful magic is under the strictest control of the Empire and exists only in the magic tower. The fact that the man was a servant of the family with abilities was revealed, and there is no hope for the best. He hopes that he will only be removed from office for a short time. Entering the office, the hero is silent. In fact, he does not regret anything because if he had to talk about the truth, he would never change his decision even if he returned back to the world. The Duke is worried that the boy has not yet fully recovered and therefore called him for a talk. The help provided was sufficient. The day before, Jan did not believe that his friend was completely fine because even he had difficulty regaining his strength. His body needed a good rest for several days. The brunette also decided to help, so he uses divine power again, asking the guy to turn his back. He tried hard to save the lady's life. Now Aiden can move his shoulders again, which is something that is impossible not to be happy about, and the goddess Ariana will definitely reward him. The Holy Father behaves exactly like a child because even after numerous requests to be restored, he continues to help others first. Now the priest is resting because he has overdone it. The only thing that interests the young man is why the Duchess sent him to help. While the conversation dragged on, the guest was made to wait too long. The same Sir Alagen who had visited the estate earlier was in the room the whole time. The old man smiles radiantly because they haven't seen each other for quite some time. He is happy to see that same uncut diamond in front of him. Jane has no idea what was being discussed behind the closed door, but since that day the young man has not left the room and has not done anything. No one complains because Madame granted him an indefinite leave. They say that the fall of the mistress could not help but leave its mark on the fragile psyche. The girl was thinking about something without responding to the story, but then she asked the maid to wrap up 2 pieces of cake for her. It was clear where she was going to go. The heroine gives 1 cake to Jane, who had to endure too much. She has one more request regarding what will have to be done. The girl wants to know where Aiden's room is, and she wants the conversation to be between just the 2 of them. It was already evening, so the blonde was in bed as usual. He had no strength left, but a knock on the door made him open his eyes. A familiar voice is heard quietly asking if the young man is asleep. He freezes in surprise because he did not expect to hear the lady who is standing right behind the door. The girl asks if they can talk, but in response she gets silence. She sits down on the floor sighing. Probably the guy doesn't even want to see her. Everything is exactly as it should be. If it is the will of the young man, then he can continue to pretend to be asleep and not go out. The girl has heard many times about what happened that day because Aiden heroically jumped after the lady. She does not remember what happened after, but she is still grateful. As far as the lady knows, the guy was badly hurt that day, and that makes it even sadder that when the heroine woke up he had to say something. It remains to be seen what the hero will do since he has a day off again tomorrow. The door behind him suddenly opens, causing the girl to freeze. In the distance, the footsteps of other servants can be heard discussing where they can go for a walk. The guy grabs Howitt and makes sure they are not noticed. When everyone left, the realization finally came that all this time he had been holding Selena by the shoulders without her permission. His face turning red almost instantly. Blue Eyes walks inside and sits on the bed looking around. She could never have imagined that Aiden's room would be like this. It's a bit empty inside, but clean at the same time. Everything around reminds of the owner himself. The lady asks the guy to come a little closer to her. When talking, she would like to see the face of her interlocutor, so the girl asks to sit on the chair opposite her. He lowers his head, although he agrees. The girl asks for forgiveness, and after the first few words, tears begin to flow from the servant's eyes. She knows that she was wrong, so now she is ready to calm down the one who tried to please all this time. The heroine actually no longer thinks about bad things and is not going to put her life in danger. She promises that she will never do that again. The blonde nods and asks to let go of his hand because, in fact, there is no longer any need for it. The girl understands that she made a mistake and abruptly pulls her palms away. The girl smiles when she notices the blush on the hero's face. Now there is no longer any doubt that she was speaking sincerely. For the first time, I get to see a lady laughing so carefree, as if nothing bad is happening, and I finally feel a sense of security, and this is due to the fact that she is back where she belongs. The guy asks to promise that such horror will not happen again. When he saw the body on the ground, the feelings took over, and because of the memories, tears begin to accumulate again. The lady remembers something and therefore takes out a beautiful box with a cake from her pocket. The hero, as we know, loves sweets, so this won't hurt. The guy doesn't have a fork in this room, so he promises that he'll quickly run to the kitchen, but this doesn't suit the girl, so she pulls him closer by the hand. You won't have to bother yourself and run in the other direction, because in the end you can just eat it even without utensils. A bright smile formed on your face. The cake looks so perfect that the girl starts to think about trying it too. She watches her friend closely. The hero says that he is not able to eat everything, but in this case the lady suggests giving her another piece. She does not care at all that the cake is already a little bit bitten. It turned out that the food brought was too sweet, but pleasant. The beauty tries to collect crumbs from her lips, which makes the young man laugh. The lady is sometimes too unpredictable, but in order not to get even more dirty, the guy hands over a clean handkerchief with which he wipes Selena's face. They could have divided what was left in their hands in half, but according to the blonde, it would not have been fair since the heroine had already eaten half of it. Thus, another step was taken towards a happy life that will not be a bad start and will not be something to worry about. When she returned, the girl met some people she already knew, and regardless of their position, each of them worked tirelessly because they knew that they needed it. There were only more events to come. The Duchess held a charity fair, the Duke attended an important event, and Aaron inspected the duchy grounds. The doctor and John get along well because they now understand patients who need urgent help, and each of them is busy with important things. The lady passes by in the yard, but noticing Lucas's gaze, tries to run away as quickly as possible because she understands that there are still some unspoken things between them. The man almost immediately began to get angry, just as usual, thereby frightening his companion. The girl will obviously continue to do the same thing as usual. Everyone is so busy that it is impossible to even communicate with them in any way, but of course Lady Selena herself always remains free. Mom is offered help because the heroine actually has absolutely nothing to do. She also wants to do something useful. When the little girl was still a child, she was constantly dissatisfied with something and was always trying to become someone she wanted to assert herself at the expense of others. When something didn't go exactly as planned, the woman for some reason blamed everyone around her, shifting responsibility onto them and realizing that this was right. Megumi's words come to mind because usually a person truly lives only when he is useful to someone, and in such a case the lady should try to correct the past. Regardless of successes and failures, the girl was always told that she was loved and always supported in any case. She understood that this was true. For some reason, the family's sincerity was not heard at the time, but this is not the end. Later, they can all come up with something the girl can do to help. Now the lady is worrying too much, but this will not help her in any way, so she should try to find herself in other things. As soon as a woman starts thinking about life, her instability immediately makes itself known so as not to upset her mother. The little girl promises that she will do everything possible. Selena hadn't called her mother that in a long time, so she was pleased to see that she still was, and that when they were together, she could always address her that way. The Duke enters the room followed by Aaron, who is upset that they are lounging without his participation. The guy hugs his sister and mother. A real family will always be there thanks to the woman. Her soul became much better. So Howate decided to go for a short walk. She had been meaning to take a short break for a while now to enjoy herself, nature, and other things, but it seemed like it wouldn't work out this time. In the distance, Lucas can be seen on the path, and as soon as the lady sees him, she is about to run away. Although he is angry, he calls out to Milady, noticing that they have not seen each other for a long time. While the hero was speaking, the girl had already run away, but after a few minutes, he caught up with her, in which case it would be quite possible to keep each other company on a walk. Virgo hints that they should leave her alone because it's time to return to the room. The blonde again destroys everything because he reminds them of the estate on the other side. The knight exhales to remain calm. He doesn't hold a grudge against Selena even after what happened, but he only asks for a little of her time. The heroine had no intention of avoiding those around her, but it seems to her that the young man hates her. It seems that she feels guilty. The girl lowers her head and does what should have happened a long time ago, namely asks for forgiveness. Her gaze no longer looks as empty as before. If the heroine is truly sorry, she is obliged to fulfill one wish of the young man with whom she got involved, and in this case, nothing should happen. Of course, there is nothing terrible in carrying out the plan, but the lady cannot help but warn that if something strange happens, she will tell her older brother. Aiden seemed to have returned to his duties again because one day he showed up on the doorstep of the estate. The servants were incredibly happy about this turn of events. The guy apologizes for his long absence, although his friends don't understand what he's talking about since, naturally, he needs at least some rest. In just one day, the blonde became the center of everyone's attention. He risked his life for a lady, and thus created a stir among the girls who consider it romantic. Even men admire the hero's magical abilities because it seems that no one has ever seen anything like this before. The girl involuntarily recalls that evening together in the room. She asked if the young man was going to talk about what he wanted while the lady was unconscious. The guy already said that there is nothing special here. The heroine exhales, saying that in that case, she is sorry because she thought that if she asked, her friend would definitely tell everything. Then they put off the conversation until next time, and now the time has come to talk. The girl asks Jane to bring Aiden to her chambers. The girl looks out the window intently as she waits, and Lucas is nearby, not planning on leaving yet. Now they can continue their conversation, although it seems that they have already managed to forget about it. Sir must say exactly what he intended, so as not to spoil anything. No matter how hard the lady tries to shut the servants' mouths, rumors are already circulating in high society that something happened to the lady, and it seems that it was an accident. The girl should know that recently the family has been busy refuting the rumors that have been collected together. All that remains is to calmly nod in response. There is nothing good in hiding the truth and trying to cover it up even more. The girl simply has to tell the truth. It sounds logical, but in this case, the young man should try to help the girl wants to take part in resolving everything that she herself has done. The Howitts do everything to protect their daughter, but this is not it. All the beauty asks is for the hero to become an assistant in discussing the issues that have piled up. Perhaps together they will be able to overcome everything. To begin with, the man assumes to throw the beauty into the hands of those who are interested in the lady's well-being. They must do everything possible. Vivian is also angry with Selena, who did not show up for the meeting they had planned, and on top of that disappeared without telling anyone. The lady is asked to calm down, but she is not going to listen, because her heart has long been broken by betrayal. Princess White sent a long-awaited letter. There will be a meeting in the garden, which seems like a good option for making new acquaintances with other people. If Selena showed up there, people would think that the accident was just a ridiculous rumor spread by other people, no matter what the truth was. It seems that the Howitt organization will also have to be taken over in order to correct previous mistakes. Of those who can be invited, only Vivian comes to mind. Lucas is asked to make a guest list, and since he is unable to refuse, he can only nod in agreement. The princess began the letter with the word "dear" and made the lady literally jump for joy because it seemed that she was valued. The maid nods reservedly. What Jonas wanted to hear was that she was a special friend who should grace the tea party with her presence, as her friend had disappeared that day due to poor health. In the last lines, the lady asked to keep the letter a secret, so this is how it will become something intimate and shared. Now is not the time to lie on the bed touched, because the first thing the brunette has to do is write a reply letter, which will become an important part. Mia is incredibly angry at her former friend because she deliberately made it so that Rachapelle was excluded from the guests. If this continues, the Duke's family may reject the girl. If the father doesn't see any attempt to fix the situation, he will simply sell his daughter to some rich old man who shouldn't be around. At all costs, the heroine must prove her worth in this mission. First, she must talk to the Duke and explain herself correctly. A menacing scream is heard behind the door. The girl does not immediately understand what is happening there, because as is known, he had no planned meetings today. The old man shouts that the Duchess and her few henchmen stole what he had spent so long growing, but the Count is not embarrassed by anything, because they were the ones who were supposed to make sure that this did not happen. It remains to deal with the problem while there is still time. The woman could not know about the purpose of these victims, so they are obliged to return back. The daughter does not understand what is happening, and therefore tries to press her ear to the door a little closer. The voice that is heard she hears for the first time. The man jumps up from his seat to quickly open the door. The priest walks calmly through the garden as usual, but behind him a cry is heard in which a young man calls a guy. The blonde almost caught up with his friend. The gentleman is asked about his shoulder, but strangely enough, nothing terrible happened and it is completely fine. Now his arms move without problems. If it weren't for Jan, the boy would have no idea how much he would have suffered with these terrible wounds, but he insists that there is nothing to be thankful for. In fact, the brunette is indebted to the young man because it is he who becomes so happy when his friend uses his powers. Only thanks to the servant he manages to feel special. If you think about it, a man wonders if there have been such pleasant moments in his life as now, and it doesn't take long to realize that such a thing has never happened. Mr. Yan was sent a letter from the church, which Aiden now hands over. The brunette's face immediately showed clear fear and something else. The kid remembers when he was only 8 years old and he tried to heal everyone around him when needed. He was constantly incredibly happy. The woman whose hand was healed thanks the boy and is surprised at how such a young priest can heal so well. Laughter is heard from behind, which does not bode well. The man is glad that the priest was able to help, but he gets scared when he realizes that the boss has appeared behind him. As it turns out, the gods are very suspicious of something like this, so the old woman is asked to keep it all a secret. The baby tries not to cry, but unfortunately it is very difficult. He does not believe that they are doing this to him again, using a whip. The young man was not allowed to show himself off, but in his defense he can only say that the hand of that ant hurt very badly. Each time it ended more or less the same, and unfortunately it was extremely difficult to fix. The hero sat on the bed and cried. The head priest visited Jan and said that he probably thought he was doing the right thing. But if you think about it, every time he used his powers, the seed of arrogance grew in his heart more and more. The brunette denies this, saying that he is simply happy to help other people who need it and who cannot do anything about themselves. The hero has no right to boast of his meager talent in the presence of God. The Holy Father forbade him to leave the room for about a month and ordered him to pray thinking about his actions. Yana is brought back to reality by the voices that are heard in the room. He didn't even notice how he fell out and became immersed in unpleasant memories. The hero again says that he is returning to the temple because in fact he does not deserve to calmly cool off in this place. Howitt received the guest so well that he even forgot about what had happened. It was time for him to return and be where he was supposed to be. A priest should not be so hasty in his decisions because, in fact, he was hired as a staff member and the temple has already received payment for this. If the young man wants to stay in this place, he is allowed to be here even for the rest of his life because the Duke will not have any questions. There is still a little time left to think everything over. The lady asks not to make such a doomed face because in the end there is always a choice. Selena goes out into the garden for a walk with Aiden. She stops and then asks him to take just 3 steps forward. Finally, they are close, and the beauty can see the handsome face of the blonde. He even blushes a little after hearing what was said to him. There is no need to worry so much about Yana because in the end he is an adult and can decide everything he needs to. They can continue to chat together like this. The couple heads forward along the path after the hero had to force himself not to take the lady's hand when they stood together. Mia yells at her father asking what kind of nonsense this is. Count Polland is a pervert and a libertine, and it is to him that they want to give Rachapelle as a wife. The man bangs his cane menacingly. The lady had to pay money for the premium meat she ate, and in gratitude for what the family did, the girl did not repay in any way. From today onwards, the little girl begins preparing for the wedding, and no one will leave her a choice. When there are guests in the count's office, the child must also remain outside so as not to look stupid. As soon as the door closes, the lady falls to the floor and starts crying. Now she is not needed even by her family, which makes her heart even heavier. No one needs her. Now only Mia herself can protect her life, even if she has to go against her family. Lucas carefully reads the sheets with filled-in information. He pays attention to the blue-eyed girl who is also thinking about something. Although there is a list of invited guests, thanks to which the girl can remember all the people listed there, it is not clear what about the partners who will arrive. The friend promises again that he will help as much as he can. Everyone knows that the heroine has lost her memory, so forgetting someone will not be a big problem. The maids who were constantly watching the process praise the master. He is beautiful even when he is without a sword in his hands, but with a book. The blonde man stands on the balcony, listening to the man walking away down the path. Many mistakenly believe that it would be good if the lady and the Duke met. It seems the guy made a mistake. He lived and pretended that everything was fine as if nothing else mattered. He thought he was doing the right thing. Here, unnoticed, the evening that we managed to wait for has arrived. Aiden is collecting a beautiful bouquet of cute pink flowers. The lady is about to go to bed and reminds the servant that it is also late, which means it is time for him to go and rest too. The hero is almost finished because in fact he has very little left to finish. The girl asks about something else. It was impossible not to notice that the young man did not go to the magic tower, as he promised there was potential in him that still needed to be revealed. The Duchess's father introduced the servant to a high-ranking gentleman from the Tower of Magicians, but then even more questions arise. Aiden did not tell her anything. Allergen reminds that if you go with him, you will be able to get official confirmation of your powers. Most likely you will need a little time to think about it. The old man smiles, saying that he liked this boy. Apparently the servant really loves his job, but all that remains is to think a little. Even then, just the thought of it was a real shock for the hero. He even wanted to leave, as if running away from the truth that had been revealed. The lady either makes the guy want to leave or deprives him of this wonderful opportunity, allowing him to stay close. Even now, the hero slows down, and then trying not to get emotional, asks the lady if she wants the man to leave. The most important thing is what the guy himself wants. For some reason, it feels like the words hurt a lot, even though it was unintentional. Blue-Eyed speaks as if she knows everything about this man, but in fact, this is not entirely true. A lady cannot know true desires. For some reason, the lady is sure that according to the novel, the servant was a character who dreamed of getting into the magic tower and could not wait for his time. Once the young man condemned Selena in the novel, he left without looking back and became a wizard while learning everything very quickly. It's a pity that the lady said something wrong, but in this case, the young man has time to think everything over carefully and then make a final decision. The Duchess was in the garden when she was disturbed by the butler. Coincidentally, the whole family was not at home at the time. For some reason today, a man from the temple came to the priest. The one who arrived is the high priest himself. Regardless of the fact that Yang was a guest of the estate, the man thought that the master of the duchy should know about the visit first. The man who appeared in the main hall smiles. It is a great honor for him to meet Princess Selena in person. One might say that the greeting was quite unexpected, but it seems he wants to make a good impression. The brunette grabs Jan's shoulder, saying that his son left without a word, causing everyone in the monastery to worry. The guy feels completely uncomfortable being around a person who keeps putting on a comedy routine just to please him. The child is faithful to God, and since he has finished his work, he simply must return to his rightful place. Even without reminders from the temple, the young man must constantly want to return, so as not to disappoint those who rely on him. The guy tries not to stutter, but it looks too pathetic, and in the end, he squeezes out something resembling agreement and causes laughter. Even good children can lie. The girl doesn't know the circumstances, but from the expression on Yana's face, she can tell that he doesn't want to come back. The priest intervenes again, noting that the boy has lived in the temple since childhood and must be delighted with the way he is being treated in an aristocratic family. When the hero realizes that he does not deserve everything he received, he will feel ashamed and strange because it seems that there is no one as capable as John. Even a lady who does nothing but lie in bed all day is treated like a mistress. But that's a different story. The lady does not have the authority of an older brother who will inherit the family and title, or she does not have swordsmanship either. The heroine has neither magical nor divine powers, so it can be said that she is simply a lady without any honorable values. Ian has every right to receive kindness and care. The people he helped want the guy to be around the estate. It is precisely because of the actions that have already been done that the hero deserves to be around, just like the lady who says she has done nothing. The high priest continues to press, noting that the Duchess does not seem to understand everything, so it is better to explain. He is abruptly interrupted. In fact, the boy has been thinking for days. He wants his insignificant power to bring happiness to the people around him. The priest will work modestly so as not to be a burden to God and will continue to pray constantly. The boy kneels down and does not notice the angry expression on his face, smiling through force. The hero notices that the baby has grown a lot over the years. Finally, I managed to learn to openly express my opinion, for which I can only be proud. For some reason, there is also a sense of falsehood in the words. Seeing that the Duke's family was taking care of the Holy Father, there was no need to worry about his well-being anymore. Everyone in the room noticed the expression on his face that appeared for a moment, and it seemed to be true. As soon as the boy came out of the priest's shadow, he began to chirp something about helping the others and began to behave differently, but this did not last long. The man promises himself that as soon as the young man returns, he will regret it very much, just like Selena Howitt. The girl asked the priest that if he met Jan in the future, he should contact her first in order to come to an agreement. This impudent girl ruined everything at best the priest hoped for the absence of the Duke and Duchess, but now someone insignificant is trying to interfere with the plans. The lady is mentally tired because their characters do not get along. Jan thanks his savior, thanks to whom he was able to speak out and express his desires. In fact, there was a moment when the heroine lost her temper with anger. She would not have been able to control herself. That fading look and fear in front of the high priest reminded her of herself in her past life, in front of her tyrant parents. The guy must have spent enough time in captivity. Everyone has the right to say what they want so as not to show their weaknesses. One cannot help but agree that it would be better for everyone if John stayed at the estate and tried hard to do something. The lady goes to bed while Aiden helps her ask for a blanket. He sincerely apologizes for his rudeness last night. In fact, the heroine thought that what happened yesterday was quite cute, but she definitely can't say something like that out loud. The blonde has the same great talent as John. Every time he does something, he just needs to do what his heart tells him to do. The words may be considered correct, but if you do what your heart desires, the guy will no longer be able to be near the lady. The day had finally come when Selena would be reevaluated in social circles, and finally everything was prepared perfectly. Turning around, the hero notices a friend sitting in a strange room since early morning. He would like to know what happened that brought him here. Aaron is incredibly worried, so he didn't know what else to do. The blonde is already moving to another level of anger. Today is Howitt's party, but if she is given help, she will refuse. The blue-eyed man notes that this is a trifling matter to bother his little sister. You shouldn't worry so much because no matter what, no problems will arise. The girl will most likely do everything to be the best. The guy comes closer and while helping Lucas dry his hair, thanks him for helping his sister in a difficult moment. The young man thinks that it wouldn't hurt for him to go to the party too, but it would probably be better to talk about this with Selena herself. The preparation of the hall is already in full swing. The lady is distracted by her parents who had business nearby, so they came to check on their daughter. The problem is not that the lady is not trusted. The girl is able to cope with everything herself, but the worries do not go away. In fact, when the mother was shown the party plan, she even cried a little because she couldn't believe that her daughter had come up with something like that. The budget concept and even the menu were also impeccable. The lady wants to know how it was prepared in the past. Despite all the problems, past experience working in a company helps incredibly much in organizing orderly things. Lord Lucas also helped, so there is even less reason to worry. If something happens, the woman asks to let her know immediately. During the conversation, the man froze and turned pale. He couldn't believe that his daughter had called her mother by a different name. The woman had completely forgotten, but only spoke like that when they were alone together, both laughing, trying not to make a joke out of it. A moment later, the Duke is already shouting something about parental discrimination. She should call him Dad, since she had already decided everything. Aaron and Selena were raised equally, so there is no chance for them to behave inappropriately. The Duchess doesn't like it when her husband behaves like a child, so she grabs his hand and pulls him somewhere to the side. It's evening, so the event is starting. A little more and more of the invited guests will start to gather. The Marquis and his wife emerge from the carriage and compliment the beautifully decorated greenhouse, which is impossible to take your eyes off. Lady Clarence and Mr. Fletro are sure to have a good time together this evening. Lucas listens and smiles approvingly. Next to appear was Mrs. Vivian, who upon seeing her friend begins to actively wave her arms. You can get tired of her in a matter of minutes. The lady was incredibly worried about her friend because she wrote about how bad she felt nothing happened, but they didn't even give her the opportunity to answer. The brunette can't believe that the blue-eyed girl put on the dress she sent. It was a gift that she wanted to try on as soon as possible and show to the world. In fact, it took a lot of determination to wear this nuclear pink shade. The lady had a duty to Jonas and had no choice. Selena is surrounded by girls who, like fans, shout about how everything suits the lady. She just nods, trying to make sure they leave her alone. Lucas carefully takes the heroine's hand, asking if she is okay, as he is worried the ladies become even more delighted. Sir is going to escort the assembled people to their seats, thereby freeing his friend from unnecessary problems. The night turned out to be definitely resourceful and reasonable because I didn't have to say anything for him to start acting. Strange thoughts creep into her head. The lady does not understand why the hero does not date anyone given his popularity in social circles. Lucas was originally destined to be with Ariel, not his brother, but no matter how you look at it, the guy lost his relationship because of Selena. The hero is talented and handsome, so meeting someone else will not be a problem the girl hopes for his bright future. A glass already filled with a drink appears in his hands and Howitt steps into the middle of the room to attract everyone's attention. Then complete chaos began, and within an hour the lady realized that spending evenings was incredibly difficult. It wouldn't hurt to take a little rest before heading forward with renewed strength, and the place behind the column seemed ideal. The shoes are starting to rub a little, which makes you want to take them off, but because of the dress, it's impossible to reach there. Maybe you can call Jane. For some reason, Vivian is nearby and helps. It's much better for resting. Howitt apologizes for making her friend do what servants usually do, and she smiles, assuring him that everything is fine. In fact, even a girl likes to sneak away like this and take off her shoes in order to give herself a little rest during the ceremony. At first it all seemed unreal, but perhaps they really are friends. It's hard to believe that someone close can appear in this life. It was so much fun with Selena that the lady didn't even notice how she spilled her drink. Now she has to do something that will help her get back. The lady walks past a man she's not sure, but it seems he wasn't invited to the party to begin with. The servant hurries to bring ice while Aiden is sent to the mistress. The girl should not be bored during her holiday. A passing brunette scared both of them, and because of him, ice scattered across the floor, which made them angry, albeit briefly. The new arrival notices the mistake and reminds about being careful. There is no point in helping, so a rude refusal changes the mood. Asking him to stay away from him, the hero pushes the servant's hand away with such force that he even feels a little uncomfortable. An acquaintance checks to see if the blonde is okay. If they had collided with him, it would have been a real disaster. Aiden can't shake the bad feeling that literally haunts him because of that young man. The Duchess reaches for the teapot, but then a man takes it into his hands and he smiles happily, realizing that they have finally met. Blue eyes and brown hair were not remembered from the guest list, so perhaps it was someone's partner who belatedly left to inquire about him from Lord Jacob. The lady understood correctly, although she hoped until the very end that it was not the one in question, and hoped that she would get away with it. It's time for Cooper to appear, and he seems so nasty that it's unsettling. Lucas is still busy with other ladies, and many in society talk about what a good knight and gentleman the man is. At the academy, the Lord is also a legend. The juniors are very happy to meet him, and there would not be a single person as an exception. Turning away, the blonde accidentally notices Count Cooper's second son sitting at the table with the Duchess, who is smiling disgustingly. Selena must be expressionless as always while Jacob continues to smile and then laugh. Aiden washes his face to calm down a bit. Suddenly he literally started to turn inside out for no apparent reason. It may be because of that unfortunate encounter that the hero remembers complex types of magic, such as teleportation and levitation. The man had not been trained to do this, but out of desperation he used it until he had completely unlearned it. It was not worth using something like this. Magic is very sensitive by nature since the young man learned about the powers and began to use them by accident. All this is unstable. According to Allergen, usually you won't be able to feel anything bad, but if you encounter dark forces, your body will start to turn inside out. The magician mentioned the very effect that could now exist and manifest itself near Jacob, who passed by. The girl is asked if she is having fun, but she does not understand why something like this could suddenly happen. The hero obviously isn't going to give up remembering the phrase about oranges from the Duke's engagement, which touched him very much. The lady chokes on the juice and accidentally spits it in the young man's face. There is no need to call anyone for help, but the man expected the lady to be so surprised. Blue Eyes selects a face and then leans closer, asking in a friendly manner what the Duchess thinks of Lucas. Lord is the one person the maiden trusts and respects almost more than anyone else. She doesn't understand what Cooper is leading to. Jurga next to her, and he was afraid that she would be interested in him as much as other women. To tell the truth, the brunette's heart has long been given to the beauty who sits in front of him, and a smile also prevents him from showing sympathy. The guy spills tea and asks the lady for a handkerchief. This banal trick will not work because there will be no second meeting under the pretext of returning the thing. Behind him, there is a blonde man who holds out a napkin. He came at the most opportune moment, as always. Today, Lucas is Selena's partner, so if she has any problems, he is simply obliged to take it up and help. The girl didn't have a scarf, so she thanks him. The hero replies that it's logical that he was able to help. It seems the conversation was overheard, but then there's no reason to be sarcastic. Cooper distracts the couple by saying that everything seems to have dried out, so there's no need for a napkin. Something incomprehensible is happening behind us because immediately several girls and even one man are shouting that they poured something on themselves. It seems that the entire crowd that has gathered wants to receive from Lucas the handkerchief that he had previously offered to the lady. The young man is already starting to get angry and doesn't even hide it. The lady asks Jane for something and she nods in agreement. Jacob moves towards the lady again. Before they were interrupted, there was some important discussion going on about feelings. The guy expresses his sympathy openly, talking about it, and asks to look at him. This is the first time the lady has been in such a situation and she doesn't like it. In fact, the brunette realized everything when he first looked at the beauty. She captured his heart completely. The girl understood everything, so she asks to calm down Lucas, and the lady must first help that crowd with the spilled drinks. Aiden appeared behind her, and the lady immediately noticed him. Since he had come, it meant he could sit down next to her. The hero brought what Howard asked for, namely a lot of scarves, but he still can't figure out what's going on. Jacob cannot remain silent, and therefore lowering his voice, asks how the servant has the right to sit at the same table with the mistress. The blonde immediately jumps up from his seat, but the girl, exhaling, sits him back down. She is incredibly tired. Since they had urgent business, the lady did not pay attention to Cooper, but if he so wished, the couple could move. The guy immediately starts to put on a comedy act, saying that since there is something important here, they can sit together and be silent until the time comes. The beauty sums up she is concerned that the preparation for the appropriating guests was insufficient. For everyone, they prepared gifts from the heart in the form of scarves beautifully tied with pink ribbons. Lord Lucas will be the one to present gifts to the dear guests, and all the girls in the hall perked up. The man promised that he would help the lady in trouble, so now he must fulfill his promise. The young man moves forward into the crowd. People again provoke the hero's anger, but still continue to shout in gratitude and promise that they will never throw away the thing. What's happening now looks more like an autograph session for Mr. Lucas, as if he were an idol. Vivian runs up to her friend talking about how much fun she had today and how glad she was invited. The one who keeps the whole party under control is glad that in the end, the girl had a chance to enjoy the evening. Jonas doesn't know if he can speak of anything, but he leans over and whispers to Selena to stay away from Lord Jacob. This will all sound strange, of course, but as is well known, the man has an extremely terrible reputation in social circles. Vivian is really worried. The Duchess asks not to worry and, gently squeezing her palm, asks if everything will be okay if she is careful. Cooper says goodbye, hoping that they will meet again soon. He promises that he had a good time and he is incredibly happy about it. The hero already wants to kiss her hand, but the lady abruptly takes it away. He needs to get home safe and sound, but that's all the wishes for now. This character was supposed to appear only next year when Selena turned 23. Now he is in the game much earlier, and there is unfortunately no explanation for this. Aiden, standing at the entrance and seeing off the guests again, runs into the brunette who orders him to get out of the way. The Duchess of Howard is still quite immature, and it can be said that the losses were worth getting here. If everything works out, the man is confident that he will be able to earn decent money from the task he was given. The blonde freezes clearly, hearing that Jacob wants to become independent from his family and start his own business. It's like a vision or a dream. The servant standing behind again asks his friend if he is okay. The boy deliberately bumped into him with his shoulder as he ran past. Finally, the last guest left, leaving empty tables placed around the perimeter of the greenhouse. The rumors must come to an end. But now the conversation in high society will be about something else. The Duchess will be spoken of as the most elegant, and the party as the best. There is no trace left of the image of a vicious woman and an immature man. Perhaps that reputation was too exaggerated. The Duchess did a great job, and now the story of the recent incident will also remain somewhere in the past where there is no longer any access. The Lord had also worked hard. It was time for both of them to go get some sleep to replenish the strength that had been expended. Lucas calls out to Selena, and when she turns to ask, he shakes his head, insisting that nothing of the sort happened. The girl's family, who had been somewhere on the sidelines all this time, is already rushing towards her at full speed. The party really was a success. Mother believes that they cannot just leave behind what they have accomplished. They need to have a tea party in honor of the first successful event. Blue-eyed tries to reduce the level of joy of her parents, for sometimes she wants to forget about all the noisy places. Lucas turns away. He doesn't understand what's wrong with him and doesn't know what exactly he wanted to say in the first place. Ian came to check on the lady. She was not well because she had been lying in bed almost the whole day without getting up. The lady was simply resting after the successful completion of the event. She was not going to get up just because laziness had attacked her. The boy offers to transfer some energy so that he has the strength to at least get up and go for a walk. Aiden again felt like it was all his fault, so he showed up first in the morning with herbal tea for tiredness. There is also a silence in the room that is impossible to break. After yesterday evening, the man seems agitated. Perhaps it was all because of Jacob's insults. No matter how the lady tried to protect the servant in a class society, people like him would continue to suffer. As you know, there is only one way out of the deplorable situation that each of them finds themselves in. Lucas enters the room knocking, bringing with him the mail he picked up on the way here, each letter addressed to the Duchess. Almost everything that was written was just gratitude for the past evening and how much fun everyone had. Lord Jacob responds by inviting the girl to the opera. Hearing this, the blonde almost choked on air because he remembers his vision. The girl asks the servant to write back that the lady accepts the invitation and that they will go there together. The Duke does not believe that his girlfriend will agree. You should not agree to everything, because sometimes this may not be the best option. Jacob is a separate story, but that doesn't mean it's even a little pleasant. Selena needs to find some sanity in her head. There is no more time to doubt what you saw that evening, because in this case, it may not lead to the best consequences. Aiden is going to talk to the lady in the morning, but it seems there is no need because her voice can be heard behind the closed door. The lady brought a cake as a gift, but the hero quickly grabbed her by the shoulders and returned her to the room. He is afraid that someone he knows will see. Blue Eyes came here for one reason only. Because the food eaten here was the most wonderful today, she even picked up a fork. The man laughs easily. The lady is so calm that he thought he was strange. His gaze turns to her bare feet. The girl silently straightens her dress, as if she doesn't hear the reminder about the shoes that aren't on her feet. When it gets hot, no one cares about the shoes on their feet. The hero takes off his slippers and kneeling puts them on his feet. The young man simply doesn't want the girl to get hurt, so he tries to be careful. The shoes are nice and warm, which causes a blush to appear on her cheeks. The blonde looks nervous and asks again if Milady would like to go to the opera with Cooper this week. The blue-eyed girl carefully examines the movements and emotions of the servant. It looks like the boy is simply experiencing ordinary jealousy. Lucas recalls his conversation with Aaron Marquis. Rachapelle's actions have become quite illogical lately. The man acts as if he is a spy assigned to the imperial family. He should be on Howit's side. But something has changed. The rest of the people who are against the emperor may be simple puppets of the Marquis who carry out all the orders. What really worries the knight is the increasing number of formal meetings between the man and the tower that continue. Perhaps the people from there are somehow connected with the latest events that happened a little earlier. It's already impossible to figure it out in my head. Aiden can't say why, but after what he saw, he couldn't tell the woman his fears. In the vision, the hero saw how a man received an order from someone to get closer to the Duchess, and this was important. It seems that this was due to the clash of magical power that Alajan warned about. Jacob could not, but it is not clear where the mana came from. Now the blonde is confused, but this does not prevent him from realizing that Cooper is a pure-blooded villain. The girl exhales calmly, still thinking she can say that it would be better if the feeling caused was jealousy. In the end, the Duchess asks not to worry. She is aware that the hero is trying to harm her, so she will stay away. Despite everything, the lady was going to meet the young man. Now the servant is more interested in how he managed to find out all the details. One day the lady will want to share her secret with someone else, but she doesn't know when that day will come. The interlocutor has that strange look again, but she assures that everything will be completely fine. She remembered the past. The lady is not going to hide anything terrible from Aiden, so she honestly promises that one day she will dare to tell the whole truth. Howard had already left the room, but the spot on the bed was still just as hot after her body. It becomes more difficult to understand true feelings, but the hero hopes that one day he will be told everything. The girl follows the path in the garden, attracting Lucas's attention. He already opens his mouth to call Selena. In time, you manage to notice a detail that catches your eye. The heroine is walking in men's slippers that are several sizes too big. The Duchess herself was heading from the servants' quarters. The only thought that came to mind was Aiden. There is a knock at the door again, but it is not the lady because on the threshold appears the well-known knight. The lord immediately notices such small details as the servant's bare feet and the cake box from the kitchen, so that no one would notice the two. The Duke drags the blonde into the room and closes the door behind him. Only an answer is required regarding the lady, but it is better not to imagine any disturbing thoughts regarding the beauty. If the boy had been an aristocrat, he would certainly have received it, but in that case, it would have been illegal. If they had an equal relationship with the lady, they would even be able to communicate and exchange things. In this case, it is impossible. The man lets go of his interlocutor and, turning away to hide even greater disappointment, asks not to tarnish the lady's honor. The guy doesn't see any other options, but to justify himself, he believes that he did nothing, so he is not going to accept the blame. Her ladyship is the one who needs to be protected, and for the sake of her being okay, the young man will throw away his own life. The hero cannot do anything that will harm. In any case, he should be allowed to at least look after the lady. The blonde doesn't consider it a mortal sin that he's just there when the girl needs him. Putting his hand to the servant's mouth, the man looks back at the door behind which footsteps seem to be heard. Jumping outside, the hero sees a whole crowd of servants in pajamas, who had obviously been standing and listening to the conversation from the very beginning. The others hid behind because they were scared by the sight of Lucas. One of them asked what happened here and why there was a noise. Without an answer, everyone is obliged to return to their rooms. Eavesdropping will be punished to the fullest extent due to the fact that it is prohibited. Now the couple is left alone again. The hero asks if the heart is to blame for what is happening. The moment your feelings are revealed to the whole world, these people will no longer care and will only make things much worse. Both the servants and the aristocrats will spread rumors and point fingers at the Duchess, trying to make her regret everything. Aiden will be in danger altogether. Let the lady please the young man, but the whole world should not grab onto this. Everything should be kept inside until the very end. The Duke promises to pretend he didn't know about today's event, but it's only a one-day event that won't happen again. The guy runs outside. He hates this kind of dirty games, so he is not going to participate in them. The situation in the Duke's house is currently unsettled due to the timely scandal, so the best choice was to escape. According to Jane, the Lord burst into Aiden's room at night. They pushed each other and even shouted. The girl has no idea why all this happened, but she remembers that Lucas said that he wanted to look after the servant. Conversations were here and there, so of course the maid collected every piece from the lips of every acquaintance. Some people support Aiden. It is not forbidden to admire a star like Lucas, so there is nothing shameful about it. The Lord was too angry, although he should not have shown such cruelty to his admirer. All the lady wants to say is that as far as the rumors go, she has no preconceptions about the couple. The girl assures that she is not concerned about any rumors, but in fact it is more interesting to the Duke himself, who is involved in this. At the entrance, Jacob immediately meets me, who did not dream of a quick response to the letter. Remaining as emotionless as usual, the Virgo merely expresses her interest in being tested. Along with the beauty arrived the two who were present at the party. The heroine trusts these people the most. It's a pity that we didn't manage to get to the opera because there was too little time for it, so we had to refuse. Blue Eyes interrupts the speech, telling Lucas to order dessert too. He doesn't like sweets, so he refuses. Aiden loves cakes, so in this case it would be better to order a few just for him. The lady turns to the young man again. The master calls the servant and asks for some popular desserts, despite Aiden's refusal of any food. Then the couple just sits in complete silence. They completely refuse to contact each other. Jacob is already starting to get angry because this is not the first time he has been interrupted mid-sentence. The Duchess does not dare to behave like that. Deciding to change the subject, the brunette asks about her thoughts on her confession. Of course, the lady had already thought about it. The relationship between a man and a woman cannot be so simple. The heroine believes that it is necessary to go through several stages. In their case, the relationship flows not only between the two of them, but also between their families, so it is worth being careful before making a decision. The hero is not going to give up smiling from ear to ear. He offers to turn all this into a significant event for both of the duchy. For true love, nothing is impossible, so there is no point in thinking about it if he is so determined you can even agree. The beauty takes out some document from her pocket that they will have to sign. Only after this procedure will she be able to take what is happening more seriously. Cooper promises that he would even drink poison for the woman. He needs to prove his true feelings, which are only visible to him so far. For now, it is enough to sign the papers that were prepared personally by the Duchess in case she has a loved one. The first point states that they have no right to interfere in each other's personal lives, but to cut off fingers for treason. It further states that the property of the spouses remains theirs, so there is no point in claiming property in the event of a divorce. Of course, the most interesting part is reserved for the end because the marriage is concluded only 5 years after the contract is signed on paper. If one of the couple dies during the relationship, they will both be buried together so that the other person does not find a new passion. The lady slowly sips her tea, only to notice the romance love until death is something one can only dream of. Jacob feels like he's being laughed at in full. Now she denies it because there's only sincerity that will remain nearby. With such conditions in the contract, the lady is simply a monster who enjoys playing with the feelings of people who could very well fall in love. If a man says something about a hobby, then it is obvious that for him it is to make people fall in love with him and then mercilessly deceive them. It obviously seemed that the Duchess was so naive that she would not understand anything from the very beginning. She already understood that something was wrong with this man. It is unlikely that the hero came up with a plan on how to rob the girl on his own, but then who is behind him and orders him to carry it out? Surely Count Cooper's family is not aware of what their son is doing. He will have to destroy his dreams and report to the head of everything that happened. According to the novel, Jacob is a minor character who tried to deceive Selena, but was discovered and barely escaped the wrath of that version of the girl. The lady was worried and afraid to meet him because he appeared 3 years earlier than expected. It seems like this guy is an even bigger bastard than he initially seemed when reading. He mumbles something about the family not being allowed to know the truth. The best solution would be to tell everything as it is before Howitt himself finds out about it, and his father and mother will not stop at just their fingers. The boy jumped up to run away. Lucas also approached the table to look at the contract, which seemed to interest him. The Lord is going to step away for a while, but while he's gone, Aiden is obliged to stay by the Duchess's side and help. Jacob runs down the street trying to catch his breath. He was deceived when they said that the lady was completely careless and also stupid. There is no talk of seduction, because in the end it seems to the hero that he will have to meet the White Knights only because of that crazy woman. The guy almost trips over a rock that is flying towards a woman and a child. Lucas catches the boulder right next to his face, doing it at the last moment. The lady thanks the hero for catching a stone in flight and protecting her baby. This picture reminds one of the young man and his mother in the past when everything was still good. Since there are no more wounds left, the hero is forced to leave those he met. His gaze turns towards the road where Jacob is no longer visible. The man does not understand why there are so many people on the way and why this terrible knight is running right after him. In any case, it wouldn't hurt to run away. Right in front of the Count appeared that very hero who, smiling, asks where the young man is going. The two need to talk to each other, but it seems the brunette is in a hurry. According to him, some urgent matters have come up. There will be no chance to talk next time, and the blonde himself is serious. The stone hits Jacob's nose, who is glad that it wasn't a head. The Count steps back, realizing that he won't escape. Unfortunately, that very matter will have to be postponed for now. Cooper is grabbed by the collar and pulled closer. You have to be careful, because it seems like some individuals fall on level ground. There was complete silence in the room in order to ease the tension a little. The beauty hands over a piece of paper, but the hero immediately refuses. If the lady insists all that remains is to accept running his eyes over the lines, the blonde is unable to hold back his laughter. The lady's lips are also touched by a slight smile because it's good that the servant is laughing. Aiden has been gloomy almost all day. Lucas had already managed to return back to the cafe. He cannot understand why the couple is smiling at each other so radiantly as if no one else exists. Jacob promised that he would lead a calm and quiet life, but the lady begins to fall asleep from the trip because she is quite tired. The beauty's face almost hit the bump and both guys tried to catch her. The servant came to his senses in time, allowing Lucas to do everything. The knight also does not know how to hide his feelings because it became clear from his eyes that he was in love. Milady became the only one for such a person, which makes his soul feel bad. The room is in complete chaos as Aaron continues to throw everything around his friend, hopes that the guy has already calmed down and there won't be any more problems. Very soon that scoundrel Cooper will pay for everything, but for now it's not worth doing anything so as not to scare him off. The brunette was put under a spell that allows him to forget about the customer. The hero himself did not know why he got involved in this adventure, but he still tried to see it through to the end. The young man received an advance payment, remembers that he needs to seduce Milady, but also knows nothing else even under threats of torture. Lucas decided to play it safe and first sent Jacob to his own people outside the kingdom. Aaron is still angry that someone dared to do this to his sister. Once the truth comes out, the family will no longer be able to get away with it and try to correct their mistakes. There is some kind of note in his hands. The current events surrounding the Duke's name may be connected to what is happening in the north at the same time, and something needs to be done about it. From that very place, a secret message was sent to the estate, made by people from the clan. The forces opposing the royal family and its methods of governance, which are being challenged, have already managed to become active. There is still a month left to imitate, and then Lucas will be able to go to that place in order to find out more. A friend would go with him, but the amount of work in the castle prevents him from doing what he planned. In the end, it is much better to go alone so as not to attract unnecessary attention that could interfere with the operation. Going outside to get some air, the young man meets the Duchess again. The lady doesn't even intend to answer the question of why she's not in bed so late. Coming closer, the heroine reminds him of the fact that now they're just the two of them, which means they can tell him what's been going on lately. Cooper is just a stupid pawn. But there is someone more powerful behind him who will not just let this go. It seems that this has become the cause of worries that made it impossible to sleep. Ignorance is not work, because everyone should know what they are ultimately doing. This will help them come to a good conclusion. The Lord cannot resist Milady, so he is going to tell her what he knows at the moment. Now everything fell into place. Spells were used on Cooper, so the magic clashed with the light coming from Aiden. This will not help in finding the culprit. The war for power between the king and the duke intensifies. Although this was not in the novel due to the many changes that occurred with the arrival of the girl, Selena is already lost in her thoughts, but she is asked not to worry so much because in the end everything will be resolved as quickly as possible. For a second it seemed that the young man knew everything, but he interrupted. He would have to go somewhere, and obviously it would take a month or even more. Before leaving, the hero wants to talk about something that has been accumulating in his soul for a very long time. Without retreating, the blonde says that he is in love with the Duchess. She freezes with her eyes wide with surprise. Of course, the beauty also likes Lucas because it is quite logical considering his good qualities. The heroine runs away saying that she needs to rest, stopping there. The guy can't hold back and starts laughing. The same words that she had to run away from as quickly as possible are still ringing in her head. The lady opens the door to the room. Unexpectedly, the heart begins to beat faster. The lady sincerely hoped that the young man did not experience such feelings, but she was wrong. Lucas himself doesn't understand what to do. The bottle of wine ran out, which forced him to go down to the wine room where he found Aiden sitting on the floor. The hero wonders what the servant is doing in such a place, but receiving silence in response, he opens another cork and starts drinking. The young man is already getting ready to leave, arguing that he does not want to disturb the aristocrat with his simple company. There are no classes at the moment because they are two people huddled together in a wine cellar to drown their pain. The two of them could use some talking. Aiden is no longer working, so if it's about work, they should come by tomorrow morning. In the book of the history of the duchy, there is a record of a mage who was a commoner and was given a title and wealth for his services to the empire. At first it was hard to believe, but that case was extremely unusual, so there was only one option left. If a servant becomes a mage, he has the opportunity to receive a title, and then life will change 360 degrees. Apparently, Aiden had made a decision, but in that case the question remains why they suddenly decided to tell him about it. A man cannot stand meanness, and since the boy feels that the world is unfair, he can do everything to change it. If fate cannot be changed as soon as the lot ends, Lucas will not sit idly by and will be next to the Duchess. No matter what happens for now, all that remains is to wait. The last chance only comes sometimes. In the morning, the hero came to the girl to talk about the magic tower. She thinks that it is a great idea. The boy falls to his knees, asking if he will be allowed to return after his training is completed. The girl thought it was obvious. The young man would return and become a protective mage for Howitt, who needed it. This is all a bit disturbing because perhaps the servant wanted to leave in some other way. They should sign the contract in advance. The boy tries to put all his thoughts into words he doesn't understand if he can hope that there will be something between them after a new beginning. The beauty smiles, promising that they can talk about it. She is not even going to ask what exactly they are talking about. The knights on the court constantly pay attention to their main man, who has become more thoughtful lately. Aiden had already reported to the head of the house and handed over all the business he had. Most likely, the Lord immediately sent the young man to the magic tower after he spoke about his decision. The blonde still can't believe that his dream will come true. In the impenetrable darkness, a ray of light appeared, breaking through forward. The girl closes the book and looks around the room. She turns to the Lord, asking what he needed at such a late hour. The time has come when the hero wanted to fulfill his true desire. He had already mentioned it before, but now there is a suitable option. If it's too early, it won't work out. But that doesn't mean everything will be changed, because the blonde isn't going to give up anything. The lady tries to stop her hands from shaking. As she holds the scissors, she has never really cut anyone's hair before, so now she is worried. The young man constantly encourages the heroine, and she already brings the device to her hair. It remains to ask why such a decision suddenly appeared. The seasons change, and changes also occur within the hero, which will help him eventually become better. The cut tail lies on the floor. The hair symbolizes a new beginning in life, and a better stage that will help to realize the truth. In the room, the servant is already being met by friends who are all smiling happily. The main character of the party has arrived. A magician appeared among the assembled, so this became a normal start to the celebration. Even if the hero is not confident in his abilities, now he will definitely become a real magician in the future. Perhaps in the future, friends will not have the opportunity to congratulate the guy because he will not just approach him. It is too sad to say such a thing. This will be the last time they all raise a toast together. The hero will rise even higher and become a bright star. In the future, I want to stick my nose up in the air and brag to others that my former colleague has become the greatest magician. Jan, who had already had a fair amount of wine, begins to cry, noticing that everyone gathered turns out to be such good people. The hero had no control over himself at all, so now he can't stop pouring out all his feelings. Aiden can't stop smiling. He hopes they're all prepared. Lucas tenses up to his horse, who is already waiting for him outside his new haircut, reminiscent of his childhood. Selena found herself in the garden again, although the sun had not yet risen. It seemed that the lady had come out to see her friend off personally. Before returning back to the room, the lady wishes him a safe journey and asks him to be careful. The horse rushes forward to the exit of the garden. What the beloved said was more than enough. It was time to leave, even for Aiden. He had already packed his suitcase, which contained his entire life in the mansion. It is quite difficult to leave everything as it is, but the young man overcomes himself, crossing the threshold into the street. The Lord ordered the coachman to take the servant to the magic tower, so you should hurry so as not to be late. Before leaving, the blonde goes under Milady's window. He couldn't say goodbye to her because he was in a hurry after yesterday. A little more, and it will be time for the beauty to awaken, so perhaps it would be worth waiting to say goodbye. Aiden is acting like a child, but it's better to leave as soon as possible so that he can return after becoming a mage. Opening the carriage door, the hero freezes because inside is the Duchess, already completely collected. The girl waited because she wanted to see him before she left. It seemed like it would be unrealistic. Selena asks to focus on how to show her skills better and not worry about unnecessary things. Once, a lady asked to tell her what a friend was thinking when she was unconscious after falling from a tower. The young man is incredibly attracted to the beauty. It seems like it all started from the moment they met. Even when the blue-eyed girl hated the servant, he still felt something inside, something unquenchable. All this time, Aiden loved the lady, but now he asks for forgiveness for having dared to do this at all. Now all this has been told because they will not see each other for a very long time. The girl lets him finish his thought and then gently kisses the hand of the guy sitting opposite. The hero has matured, but this conversation will have to be postponed until the young man becomes a full-fledged magician. Giving one last look, the lady asks him not to linger and carefully steps off the carriage, causing the man to blush. The wind began to blow in different directions, hinting at the end of the story, and also at its beginning, which will be dedicated to two heroes. Autumn has arrived, or rather, the first autumn in the life of the beauty, and the noticeably empty places nearby make her feel a little sad. When the seasons change and the stars align again, perhaps the couple will meet again to begin their story. Until then, it remains to say goodbye, but only for a short time. The Duchess goes to the Duke, leaving her thoughts in deep consciousness.